Warning. This video contains super awesome content not suitable for people who don't enjoy super awesomeness. Viewer discretion advised.
Welcome to Viewer's Choice. Your selection is about to begin. But first, take a look at what else you can see this week.
Hey, dudes, inviting you to travel through time. First stop, a long layover at the video store.
Bogus.
Wait, you've got Viewer's Choice.
Excellent.
Hello, you rotten little bloodsuckers.
America's most popular now. Get extra value. $12.50 cash back.
Rise and shine, Mr. Freeman. Rise and shine.
I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. What? Say what again?
Let's get out of here! Like now!
When life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Make life take the lemons back. Get mad! I don't want your damn lemons! What am I supposed to do with these? Demand to see life's manager. Make life rue the day it thought it could give Cave Johnson lemons. Do you know who I am? I'm the man who's gonna burn your house down with the lemons.
This is my ship, the Nebuchadnezzar. This is the core. Where we broadcast our pirate signal back into the nations.
Welcome to the Nebuchadnezzar with your host, Ernesto Morado, the double-headed coin, and your co-host, Pablo Morado,
What's good?
the Thunderbolt. Together, we are the Pyramid Podcast.
Have a nice day.
The right man in the wrong place can make all the difference in the world.
Welcome to the Pyramid Podcast. Today we got a special guest, and this guest is going by the name of Aftercyph or Andy. Welcome. How you doing?
Doing great. How about you?
What do you prefer, Andy or Aftercyph?
We can go with Andy for now.
Andy, all right. What's good, Andy? Andy's a good. We basically grew up together. He's family, and I love him to death. He's a great person. What I like about Andy that I haven't seen in anybody really in like my years of living is a truthful honesty that you have, even if it may be to your like detriment sometimes. Like even though sometimes you're honest about things that could get you in trouble, but you're very honest to a fault, and that is a trait that is hard to find, and I find that to be very good and hard quality to find in people. So we appreciate you, and then welcome to the cast. Welcome to the Nebuchadnezzar.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Appreciate it. It's an honor.
So, thank you. And
no, I got an extra question though. Why is it pyramid instead of pyramid instead of pyramid?
So the pyramid. So the pyramid is not a pyramid. In fact, actually, let me. That's a good question. That's a great question, actually.
Pyramid an actual word.
Well, my father.
Play on words here. They have.
My father, the host of the Pyramid Podcast, Mr. Ernesto Morado, he coined the word pyramid, and basically what pyramid is a specific shape, and I'm going to pull it up for you right now. It's not exactly a pyramid, but I'll give you a look at what it is. Now he developed this shape back in the 90s. this is something that he's been doing. My father's been into the paranormal, UFOs and stuff like that for a long time. And originally the podcast was called the Paranormal Experience Podcast. However, due to likeness of other podcasts and us trying to, even though my father had the paranormal experience way back in the 90s and he actually has it patented and he has it trademarked, we'd rather go with something that was even more unique to us. So we went with the pyramid. And now let me quickly find this here for you so you can get an idea of what this is. But the pyramid basically is a shape that my father had created. And it goes into it's supposed to represent all the forms of the paranormal. So let me pull it up here. Just give me 1 second. Here we go. So let me just do this here. All right. So I'm gonna quickly share my screen. All right. So you see this? This is the pyramid. That's the shape that he created. And this is a recreation of the original shape. But you see it has like the UFO, they're all different meanings. And the person that would be best to describe what all these things mean will be the originator himself, Mr. Ernesto Morado. But the idea of it is to encompass all the different occult symbols of like the UFOs and the spiritual realm and the metaphysical realm, all into one kind of shape. And this is what he called the pyramid, and we ran with it.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. And it's it's not very often that you have something that that's been around since the 90s. It's not very often that we pull out something from the archive that it's been around for a long time. Nobody's ever heard of it. So the fact that it was unique to us and people seem to like it, we kept it. So that it's not a pyramid, it's a pyramid. And yeah, it's just a play on words. I don't know what the origin of why he called it pyramid, but that's what I know.
Paranormal and stuff,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Incorporate the
pyramid.
That makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like a pyramid that encompasses all the weird, things that are unexplained.
Yeah.
So in this podcast, we go over a lot of different topics, and we encourage our listeners to have an open mind. A lot of the stuff here, it may or may not be true. We're living in a world now where, there's a thing called mis and disinformation. We kind of throw that out the window. We're not trying to say that anything that we're putting up is mis or disinformation. It's just here to trigger you to be a little bit more curious about what's going on in the world. It may be true, it may not be true. We're not trying to be newscasters here.
Yep.
We're not trying to, say that everything. Right. We're just interested in different things in the paranormal, and sometimes you might find something that seems interesting and it turns out to be fake, or sometimes you find something that seems too good to be true and that actually is true. So it's hard to piece apart what is good and what is bad. But we also like to joke around about the news, trying to find some light in it, because both my spouse and Ernesto's wife, my mother, it's hard to give them the true news of what's going on in the world today, because it's so horrible, a lot of the stuff that's going on. So it's hard to give it to somebody that really doesn't want to hear the negativity in their life. So we try to make it a little bit fun, and we try to make fun of it a little bit, even though some of the things that we're going to uncover today is a little bit hard to swallow, but we try to make fun of it. We try to make it, light of it, because what else is there? That's all we can do. So to start off, let's see here. What do I got? So have you ever heard of Breaking Points with Crystal and Sagar?
Breaking Points? No.
Okay, so Breaking Points with Crystal and Saga is like a new show. It's like they're trying to break away from the CNN and the MSNBC, and they're trying to do their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
I have a love-hate relationship with these reporters, because on the one hand they say, oh, mainstream media, is the worst. I hate the mainstream media, blah blah blah. But yet, all their reporting comes from mainstream media. So it's like, how can you say you hate them when you're looking to them for answers? Right. So it's like, it's like, how can you pretend? You're right. You're not doing your own journalism, really. You're not searching things on your own. You're basically just looking up news articles. You're not doing.
And you're putting
right. So
together.
Exactly. They do have some good insights, but overall, like, that's what kind of like, ticks me off about them, because they claim to be this, fresh new media that's better than the legacy media and all this other stuff, but yet you use them for every report that you do. You're not doing your own investigation. So, but I use them because they actually highlight some things that a lot of the mainstream media likes to bury. They might report it, but they just put it in 2-minute segment or whatever, and just bury it under everything else that's going on in the world today. So they highlight some of the stuff. So first things up, we got China fires into Taiwanese-Japanese waters. So let's check this out. I'm going to share my screen.
So is this from them?
And speak about Taiwan. So obviously Speaker Pelosi.
Hold on, let me pause this. So this is from them, Breaking Points, my people that I love to hate.
Oh, I've seen
Taiwan,
videos from them before, though.
Oh, you have? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
then, so you kind of
little clips here and there. I think you sent me stuff before too. Like,
yeah, they're good. I mean, I on the one hand, they do have like some kind of like a good they're knowledgeable, so they have like a perspective based on being in Washington DC and how these politicians work. They have that kind of background, but again, you're saying that you're better than mainstream media, but you're not doing your own investigation. So how are you better if you're using the mainstream media? So, but again, this is a report from them, and I think it's quite interesting. So let's take a look.
Let's speak about Taiwan. So obviously Speaker Pelosi landed in Taiwan. She was there for a little over 24 hours. She met with the president. She made some appearances and more, and then she quickly departed. But the fallout from her visit is only now beginning, actually today. So there's a lot of eyes on what's happening. First, let's start, though, with her op-ed. The moment she landed, she published an op-ed in the Washington Post. Let's put this up there on the screen. And what she talks about here is not only the passage of the Taiwan's Relations Act, but I thought that the way that she phrased it really bears some scrutiny, which is this, quote, "We take this trip at a time when the world faces a choice between autocracy and democracy. As Russia wages its premeditated illegal war against Ukraine, killing thousands of innocents, even children, it is essential America and our allies make clear that we never give in to autocrats." Now, there's a really weird theory behind this, which is that you have to go to Taiwan to show Ukraine that you're willing to stand up against Putin. And you have to defend Ukraine against Putin in order to show the Taiwanese that you'll back them against China.
Right.
And you're like, well, hold on a second.
Wait a
Which
second.
one is it? Mm-hmm. And why this bothers me is that, look, the idea that we're going to support every democracy in the world is ridiculous. That's just not going to happen. States trade with other states and engage with them based upon their national interests. It has been like that since the beginning of time. You could make a very hard power, non-democratic case to talk about Taiwan and to talk about Ukraine, frankly. But that's not the case that they make here. It's all wrapped up in this like highfalutin language around democracy and autocracy, which then leads me to be like, well, okay, well, why did we just okay $3 billion by the Biden administration to the Saudi Arabian government? Because we did. That actually happened yesterday, just so people are aware. And you're like, oh, well, actually,
where's our high-minded ideals then?
Yeah, there's no high-minded ideals, right? Then we're talking about hard power. We're talking about oil. So it's like
do you get what's going on here? Like, there's a lot of stuff that he's going on over, but basically, for those that are listening, Nancy Pelosi went over to Taiwan for reasons I'm not entirely sure, but the Chinese government, which they do not recognize Taiwan as a country, that's problem one. So the fact that Nancy Pelosi even mentioned Taiwan at all is a big issue. Another thing is that the most recent movie that we made, Top Gun Maverick. Apparently, the original character had a Taiwanese flag on his jacket, and the China was like, you better take that flag off the character, or else we're not gonna play your movie. And the studio was like, you know what, fuck you, China. We're still gonna put it. So I know China's a little bit pissed off about that. But here we go. We have Nancy Pelosi visiting Taiwan, and yeah, and this
why I think that she.
Well, I mean, say that again. Why do you think she went to Taiwan?
Yeah,
Yes.
Is this not too long ago? Like maybe a couple weeks,
couple days ago.
No. But I'm saying like another event happened like a couple months ago. Not a couple months, maybe like a month or a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
Nancy Pelosi, she what's it called? She had stock options in NVIDIA, and Congress just passed a bill for she's Congress, right? She's Congress.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
They just passed a bill of like they're gonna raise money, or like they're gonna invest money into like semiconductors, right? Basically. So her stock ended up jumping. And whereas Taiwan also is the biggest producer of semiconductors too. So TSM is the company there, and they basically produce chips, semiconductors for all, for like Intel, for like
yeah, I'm actually looking it up here.
All these companies, yeah.
It says Biden to sign bill boosting China competition and U.S. chip production. President Joe Biden set to sign. Yeah, there she goes.
Right there, there she goes. Chips
and science. There she goes. The chips and science act. Look at that fucking smile.
She's like, I just made a fucking couple mil, boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, because her husband is like a hedge fund manager or something like that.
Oh so my god! Like, yeah. So she
basically passed all these bills, and miraculously always has some fucking options. And options are tricky too, because options are time sensitive. They're not like just buying a stock, like you hold it for a while. But options, you have a certain date until they become worthless. So it's like,
you see, this is why I like having you on the cast, because you have a different knowledge set than I do. So explain this to people. What is exactly an option?
An option is a contract between two people. One person will be selling shares at a certain price, and another one will be buying shares at a certain price.
Okay.
So each contract has an expiration date and a strike price. And each contract holds 100 shares of a company. So basically, when you buy, you can either buy an option saying that you're going to buy shares at a certain price, or you can buy an option to sell shares at a certain price. Now, each of these bundled options are 100 shares each, and they have a certain expiration date. So let's say
it's kind of like a future where it's like you're buying. Okay,
it's like futures, yeah, because it's like you're playing in the future, like you're betting on the future price of the stock. So what's it called? So it's like basically if I have 100 shares, right, but you want to buy them and I want to sell them, I can do, let's say the stock is trading at like $50 today, right? And I want to sell them, let's say $80 because I want to make a profit.
Right.
But you still think the stock's going to go up, so you'll buy it at $80, but you can just buy the contract at this certain date because it's cheaper to buy it than buying the shares, because they usually sell on cents per every share in the contract.
In the contract,
so,
okay.
Yeah, so you don't have to buy it. You can have the right to buy it at a certain price, and it's
so then you're betting that. You're betting that, let's say, by the time it comes time to pay, that the stock, let's say, goes up to 100, and now you're making money because now you bought it for 80.
Because you bought it for exactly. You understand? You got it. You have an idea.
But then if the stock goes down to like 20, you still got to pay the 80, kind of a thing.
Well, you got to pay whatever you paid for the contract, and it's usually at the full price of the shares, so it's usually cheaper.
Okay.
So then that way, only if you get to the expiration date and you want to exercise the contract, let's say to buy it at $80, then you have to pay the $80 per share.
So what Nancy Pelosi is doing is she's getting ahead of the option because she's seeing ahead. Oh, okay, there's some kind of regulation happening here. Let me plunk some money in this because I know it's either going to go up or down.
Yeah.
So
she most likely knows it's going to go up in this case because she's the one writing the bill. I mean, imagine that bill passes and all these companies get extra money from the government. Those stock prices are going to go up because that just raises certainty. And at the end of the day, what is the stock market? A forward-looking, instrument or a thing. You know what I mean? You're always looking into the future, what the price will be.
That's so true. That's so true.
So
yeah, right here it says U.S. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, alongside members of Congress, holds the CHIPS and Science Act, providing domestic semiconductor manufacturers with $52 billion in subsidies to cut the reliance on foreign sourcing after signing it during an enrollment ceremony on the west front of the U.S. Capitol in Washington.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's not good that, we have people, because that's technically insider trading, no?
They want to write a bill on it, but if the people in Congress are making money off these trades and stuff, are they ever going to write a bill if they're the ones that control the rules?
Right. I mean, geez.
That's the thing. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
Let's get this.
But that was a pretty big thing not too while ago with the market because I mean you can go on Twitter and stuff and they have like accounts that say Nancy Pelosi portfolio tracker. So
I've seen that. It was like was it Unusual Whales, right?
Yeah,
something like that.
Unusual Whales or something. Yeah, that guy he kind of just like he does a little bit of everything. So he likes to, try to watch, what the SEC regulation is, and then he'll do like like an unusual whale, like someone that does like, trading that they're not supposed to be doing, or they're moving a lot of money and like a certain security. So it's like, okay, there's something happening here. Who's moving all this money? Why is this person buying this? It's kind of like points things out that usually don't get reported. People try to do it secretly, but you have to report it, Like all these trades that Nancy does has to be reported because she's in Congress. So yeah, they have a little more regulation, but if they know these bills are going to pass and stuff, then who gives a fuck?
Right. Because then you're going to make money anyway.
You're going to make money anyway, yeah. And technically, she's not the one trading. Her husband's the one trading. So,
apparently, from what I hear, that like her husband is so good at this.
Yeah.
That he's better than Warren Buffett. He's better than all the Rockefellers. He's a better investor than anybody that's been doing this for many years and built their fortune on this. He's better than all these people. Yeah. That's crazy. But what I like is have you ever heard of this comedian Andrew Schultz?
Yeah.
Well, what I like is that he calls Nancy Pelosi. He says that despite of all her shit about her, she got the heavies. Despite all the shit, whatever, she got the heavies. So they didn't touch into the China firing missiles, so I'm kind of interested in what they're going to say about this. So let's go back to the report.
Sometimes we're okay with hard power, and sometimes we're not okay with hard power. The op-ed itself was just, classic kind of neoliberal brain. And
right. Well, that was actually my biggest takeaway from it. I mean, ultimately, I read through it. She doesn't really make that much of a case for her trip, to be honest with you. It's just like reviewing our relationship with Taiwan, and here's why it's important. But she says by traveling, the closest she comes to making a direct case is she says, by traveling to Taiwan, we honor our commitment to democracy, reaffirming that the freedoms of Taiwan and all democracies must be respected. that doesn't mean anything. I mean, it's just like meaningless buzzwords. And I think that's the real thing of why. Like, if you could really make a case of what difference this makes
and why
how
now?
This is
Now.
and going right now, why now is the time to go and what it means and where it's going to lead us. But they don't do that. I mean, everybody who's in, there's a bunch of Republicans mostly who really affirmatively supported Pelosi's trip. It's all just wrapped up in these meaningless buzzwords about standing up to autocrats and standing with democracy or whatever. Listen, as I said before, you know, if you believe
that's troubling,
that what we
standing with
do
democracy.
show how tough we are, we're not going to back down. Okay, well, you can make an argument by flooding Ukraine with weapons. Certainly, things have not gone for Russia the way they thought they would go in Ukraine. You were able to get herd the cats of Europe and basically more or less have a sort of united strategy, although there are some cracks and fissures there as well. Okay, so you did that. That was the hawkish case for what we've done in Ukraine. We've also done what I think is very intelligent in investing in our own chips, domestic manufacturing. That's the very beginning of these type of strategy vis-a-vis China that I think makes a lot of sense. That just makes us a lot less dependent on both China and Taiwan. But right now, while we are in this place of vulnerability, wrapped up in the stupid proxy war with Russia, that now's the time, it just makes no sense.
That's I agree. It makes no sense right now.
If you care about Taiwan,
unless you want to make profit,
you want to kind of turn it into what's called a porcupine, right? Which is make it very, very difficult for it to attack because a seaborne attack is very likely. Well, actually, we're spending the bulk of our Javelin reserves to Ukraine. So if China invaded Taiwan tomorrow, we actually would not have enough Javelin missiles. Why? Because we don't have enough semiconductors in order to put into those Javelin missiles. So if you do care, Ukraine is frankly detracting away from a lot of that case. You can make that if you want, but I'm just telling you that that's what the actual case is.
Yeah.
Now, bipartisanship, all bipartisanship on display here. Let's go ahead and put this up there. 25 senators, including Mitch McConnell, put out a letter backing Pelosi's trip to Taiwan and actually attacking President Biden for saying that she shouldn't go. I mean, look, Republicans can attack President Biden. That's fine. What bothers
17 minutes of this. I want to know what happened. Did they actually send missiles? What's going on with this missile shit?
In like 3 hours, the entire thing. So there ain't no scheduling conflict which is going to stop you from meeting with the Speaker of the House. Clearly, he is not. So a lot of people forget this because it happened right before 9/11. But there was this incident on, I think it's called Hainan Island, where a U.S. military spy plane was flying and actually collided midair with a Chinese jet. That aircraft, the spy aircraft, was then forced to be downed on, it was a Chinese territory called Hainan Island. This ignited a global crisis because we had our airmen, spy aircraft airmen, stranded in China. And the Bush administration had to go and get them. It ignited serious issues. The Chinese were like, you're encroaching on our airspace. They accused us of like downing their aircraft. And we had to like send some people over there. It was a high stakes diplomatic gamble. Basically 9/11 happened, so everybody forgot about it. But look, I mean, it's been 20 years. How would that play right now? I mean, we had these issues, and this only increases the likelihood of exactly something like that. And apparently I'm not the only one thinking this. David Sanger, who is like the dean of the Washington Foreign.
I think we get it. I mean, they didn't really discuss the firing missiles part. I mean, it's 17 minutes long. If you guys want to listen to it, you're more than welcome to. It's Breaking Points by Crystal and Sagar. But it's crazy, to hear that her trip for her profit went ahead and, pissed off the China to a point where they're firing missiles as a demonstration. Like, listen, nigga, we're gonna. Excuse me, that was I gotta bleep that out. But listen, N-word, listen, person, you gotta seriously. Stop what you're doing, but and the fact that she went to Taiwan, not for her stated reason, not for the chips, which I think they would have kind of let slide at least a little bit, maybe, but for the sake of democracy, that's poking the hive. I mean, God, we're at the verge of World War III.
Take Taiwan over.
Yeah, it was like we're at the verge of World War III, and what happens? You're going over there to poke China and say, Taiwan should be a country. What happened?
People buy that stuff.
Yeah, they do. I mean,
and you know, for them to make reason to do things, they gotta feel like they gotta make themselves look like the hero. You know.
Yeah. So
the position comes with. I mean, at the end of the day.
So yeah, like that's just nuts, you know. I mean, especially what's going on in the world in the war in Ukraine. Apparently, from what I'm hearing, I mean, I don't have any. Yeah, I mean, I mean, from what I have, I mean, I don't have any clips or anything for that. But from what I've been listening to, it seems like Russia is winning the war by like seriously winning the war. They are only sticking to their tier 2 weapons, apparently, which means that, you know, they have better stuff that they haven't used because they feel like there's no point when Ukraine can barely, you know, sustain right now. And I'm also hearing that, you know, these missiles that are being blown up in, I wish I had a clip. Hopefully for next episode, I'll have a clip of it. But the Ukrainian military are doing tactics that are using civilians almost like human shields. Yeah. And this is why you see Russia blowing up like a mall or an apartment complex or whatever. It's because their military is like positioning themselves around civilians in the hopes that Russia is not going to send missiles to them. And they're wrong. Russia is going to send missiles, and it obviously does something, you know, it kills a lot of innocent people. But that's your own people. Like, you're using your own people like human shields, thinking that, you know, Russia is going to be, you know, more lenient, which obviously they're not, you know. So not to. What happened?
It's a pretty dirty move, if you ask me.
It is a dirty move. It's a very dirty move. And, you know, if you hear like the Russian perspective on this whole war, which is it's a good segue and to our next hour because I have a lot of stuff on Klaus Schwab. But it seems like the reason for the Russian invasion is because they're supposedly fighting Nazis in the Ukraine. Now, apparently, Zelensky has allowed these like Nazis to exist, and they're like trying to drive out native Russians from parts of Ukraine. Mm-hmm. I think specifically it's called the Donbass region or Donbass region, and they're trying to drive them out of there. And it's essentially almost like a civil war within Ukraine, because you have Russians that believe that they belong in certain parts of Ukraine, like that's their home, and they still feel that that part is Russia. And you have these Nazi type people saying that, you know, you're not Ukrainians, you don't belong here, kind of a thing. And this is what Russia is fighting, because Russia is like, hey, we're having people that identify as Russian getting killed by these Nazis for no reason whatsoever, other than they don't want them in Ukraine, which to them is like the origin of Russia anyway. Like, they believe that Russia and Ukraine are Ukraine is technically, you know, the old Russia. I guess during the Soviet Union, Ukraine was included in that. So there's a lot of things that on the Russian side, they're thinking that they're doing something good. They're thinking that they're fighting out crime, and, you know, I mean, in my knowledge, I've always known Ukraine to be like a corrupt country, because every movie, every person, every time there's like a Ukrainian in a movie, you know, he's like a drug dealer or something. He's like this corrupt person. I mean, you have this guy, Bert Kreischer. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he has this whole story. He's a comedian. He has this whole story about him being in Russia. And at that time, Russia's just been run by gangs, right? And he's like explaining that people just did whatever the hell they want. He was lucky that the gangsters liked him, and they liked that he was an animal drinking, and they called him the machine or whatever. But, you know, that's Russia. But I hear the Ukrainians are a lot worse. So the gangsters and the things that were going on in Ukraine was not Ukraine was not like a country that was completely innocent here. I mean, apparently Ukraine has some blood on its hands, and which is why Russia's getting into this war. But on top of all that, you have Ukraine trying to get into NATO, which I did a little research and I didn't know. Do you know the difference between NATO and UN?
Well, isn't NATO like an agreement and or like?
Yeah, so I didn't know, like, because everyone's like, yeah, so like I didn't really know, because everyone's like, oh, NATO, and I'm making the connection that NATO has to do something with the UN. But what I found out is that the UN and NATO are their goals are the same, but they have different ways of going about it. So the United Nations is a way for them to aim at peace through conversation and debate, so that they can get it, some aim towards peace in that way. And NATO is peace by the stick. If you mess with my friend, if you fuck with me, I'm gonna fuck with you, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So
I think that's part of the reason why they supposedly attacked.
Right. So that's what I'm finding out, that this whole NATO thing, it makes Russia worried, because if the Ukraine gets into NATO, right, if the Ukraine is NATO, then whatever happens with this Nazi, right? If the Nazi party starts to push themselves further into Russia and Russia starts to retaliate, then guess what? The entire force of NATO and all its allied countries come to and fight Russia. So like that's not cool on the Russia's part, especially that they're dealing with supposedly this Nazi thing. Now, again, to those that are you listening, please do your own research, because everyone's saying one thing and there's missing disinformation is running rampant. Who knows what's going on, especially out of Russia? God knows if everything that they're saying could be propaganda. I mean, Putin isn't an elected official. He's a dictator that says and does whatever he wants. But I mean, just hearing that makes me think, there's more to the story than meets the eye. And it seems like, the Russian reason is that they're fighting Nazis, and Nazis play a big role in the next coming years, because apparently Nazism is like being thrust. I don't know. In my view, Nazism is being thrust into our lives again, because now, okay, you have in the U.S. anyone that doesn't want the vaccine, anyone that goes against the government in any way because they feel like the government is corrupt, which we all know the governments are corrupt. I mean, I used to work for a bank, and there's a thing that banks do that's called Know Your Customer, KYC. And a lot of what they do is they try to make sure that, the people that they're doing business with isn't a PEP. A PEP is a politically exposed person. And the reason they don't want a politically exposed person to do with anything in the company is because politicians tend to be corrupt. So this is a thing that is in regulation in the bank. So obviously we know that politicians can be corrupt. This is not like news, so politicians are corrupt and they're doing things right. So that they're doing things that is like, affecting our lives. And, if we question it, then we're labeled racist. We're labeled as almost the equivalent to a Nazi. And I don't know if you've heard about the Misinformation Governance Board, or Mis and Disinformation Governance Board. Have you heard about that? Well, the United States throughout this whole misinformation campaign was attempting, it failed, thank God, but they were attempting to create a governance board on mis and disinformation. And they were going to put this person, I have a clip of her. Let's see. What's her name? I forget her name now. but they were gonna put this person. Let me see. I have her here somewhere. Hold on. Let me quickly find Nina Jankowicz. So they were gonna put this woman as the person that can claim this is fact, this is misinformation, this is fact, and whatever. But she's very biased, and the whole point of freedom of speech is we the people should be making that decision, not the government, which we know that the government's corrupt. So they're really trying to like rein in control. Luckily it failed, but check out this woman here that they wanted to be
a friend has made a couple comments on this war thing. But it brings up a pretty good point. I just wanted to share.
Go ahead.
Like you look at the GDP of Ukraine,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's really kind of insignificant when you think about it. Like, I'm not like trying to like be like a dick or anything, but like if another country is going to spend their resources on protecting another country or attacking another country, Ukraine in itself has a smaller GDP than New York. You know what I mean? It's like there's so much more value here in New York than there is in that country itself. That what it produces,
and yet
like,
they're trying
what are you really getting? Why is it just an ego thing? I guess by Putin, because Ukraine used to be part of Russia, but is your country really going to be that much better resourcefully if you take them over? Yeah, I guess okay, now NATO is going to be surrounding your borders, so I guess at that point, you got to do it for protection. But then at that point, does it really matter for the U.S. to actually get involved for something so small and significant? Are they
No, I mean,
more out of it for them? What's in it for the U.S.? Okay, really, they maybe get another country in NATO, but is that really going to put them at that much of a disadvantage?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like a good idea on every front because, okay, Russia is a nuclear power, right? So you're basically, fighting with going into a hot war, proxy war, because technically America's not in it yet. Right. But yet we're the ones, they're using our weapons, they're using our techniques, they're being instructed by our country what to do and how.
That's like every war the U.S. has been in recently.
Yeah,
because even
exactly.
Afghanistan was like that, no?
Yeah, it's like everything. It's like a proxy war. It's like
we never actually one thing get involved, but we do send some troops, but we're not actually really the ones involved in there. You know what I mean?
Right, like they're trying supposedly to train the Afghanistan army and blah 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 and this and that, or my right, or like my one thing that happened while we were growing up that made me scratch my head a lot as I got older was, why the hell did we go and kill Saddam Hussein? Like, wasn't the target always bin Laden? Like, what the hell did we were like, yeah, it's like so stupid. It's like we go to Afghanistan, we crush the Taliban, we say mission accomplished, and then we go into Iran and kill this guy, Saddam Hussein. For what?
The leader of Al Qaeda or something like that, no?
Right, or like supposedly, I think their reasoning was that he was allowing for Al Qaeda to, like, he was harboring them, but it's like really, like,
well, the money's got to come from somewhere, no? All these terrorist groups are run by real rich guys at the end of the day.
Well, yeah, I mean, this guy, bin Laden.
He was
bin Laden was very, very rich. No, I think his father was a construction guy. That he had like his father had like a very big construction company that built buildings and cities and stuff like that, which got them very rich. And apparently he even got his education in the States too. So, I mean, if we failed as a nation to open, a foreigner's eyes to the blessings of what we have here, then it goes to show that, we're saying one thing but doing another. Like, something's up, because what should happen is you as a foreigner should come to America and feel like, wow, this is the land of opportunity here, right? Instead of that, he came here and was like, wow, this place is really corrupt. Oh, wow, they're not really after trying to help people. They're just after their own means. And that's what supposedly that's how bin Laden got the Al Qaeda and everything going, because he was like, America don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you at all. They don't care about you. And it took them a while because they were like, no, they do care, because when the Russians were invading us, they sent us missiles and they sent us all this stuff and helped out the Mujahideen to fight out the Russians. But then Osama is like, yeah, but where are they now? They're not here. They just left you here. Supposedly they're here to help you. Where's the help? Right? And then that's how. So and then he goes and does this whole mission to blow up the World Trade Center, which is. Have you heard of what happened in 1993?
1993.
Yeah, with the World Trade Centers. So in 1993, this is what Biggie, because blow up like the World Trade.
Yeah,
right?
They blow up before too, no?
Right. They there was in 1993 there was a truck that went into the buildings to try to blow it up from the basement. It was like filled with explosives, and they tried to blow it up. Didn't work. The buildings stood, were unaffected. But when they finally arrested the guy that did it, they took him in a helicopter, and they flew past the Twin Towers, and they're like, "Huh, you see that? They're still standing. You failed, right?" That's what they told him, and he's like, "Yeah, not for long." And he's like, "We'll get them." That's what he said. He said, "We'll get them. We'll get them." So fast forward to 2001, and this guy Louis C.K. I don't know if you know about this comedian Louis C.K., but he's funny. He's like, he says, "You know what? At the end of the day, we got to give props, because Bull's fucking eye, they fucking nailed it. Both planes hit both buildings. Those are supposedly crazy aeronautical things that it was really hard to do, right? But they nailed it, and they both brought them down. Like, my God, like you said you were gonna bring down the buildings. Congratulations, you fucking did it, dude."
Yeah. I guess that's an achievement within itself, right?
I mean, yeah, but then also, like, not only did they bring down the building, which is what they said they were gonna do back in '93, like, we'll get them. They said they were gonna do that. They did it. Then after that, what they really wanted was to bring down America to its knees, to bring them down, so to have them fighting over things that were meaningless. And look at where we are today. Like, we're fighting over things that are meaningless. We're creating new genders. We're telling people, "Oh, don't call me he, him. I'm now Zer or they or some other crazy nonsense that doesn't make any sense in biology." And the whole world is completely upended. So they won. Whatever their goal was, it turned out to be exactly what we're living in today. I mean, their goal won. They definitely got it. And then throughout this whole 9/11 thing, the United States government tends to use that as a way of like reining in more control. Like they have what is it, the Patriot Act that monitors more and more people and erodes our privacy. And you have people like Edward Snowden, which I've always grown up thinking that if you see something corrupt, right, in anything, if you're in a company or if you're in government or whatever, if you see something, like when I was working in the bank, they say if you see something corrupt, like if you see strange deposits for going into your manager's account or whatever, your manager's like, don't say this, or just don't worry, do it for me or whatever. those are red flags that you should be like, you shouldn't be doing this. This is not good. Right. So
don't worry.
Right. Right. It's good for me. Don't worry. I said I said
it's okay.
Who are you? I'm your manager. I said it's okay. All right. But I always thought that if you saw something like that was illegal, that you could always escalate it up, and that's what the whistleblowers is all about. You blow the whistle and say that this is wrong, and I always thought that they were protected, but here we have Edward Snowden and all these other people that aren't protected. They're living in Russia because that's the place that they can find some kind of safety, which is ridiculous. I mean, what Edward Snowden said was the United States government isn't spying on foreign soil. They're spying on us, the Americans. What the hell? They shouldn't be doing this. And they're like, oh, you shouldn't be giving the American people this information. You are in violation and blah, blah, blah. You should be thrown in jail. When in reality, it's reverse. It's the government that should be thrown in jail. No, I mean, they're clearly breaking rules here to violate our rights. And it's just, and that's going with rights. Another thing that's going on in these day and age is the taking away of our guns, right? Now, guns is one thing that people don't understand, but
they don't understand
what
the really is.
They don't understand really the Second Amendment. But let me tell you, the First Amendment, the Bill of Rights, right? They say that this is our God-given, we were born to have this. Is different than a privilege. Driving is a privilege. They can say you can't drive, but they can't say you can't have a gun because it's a right. It's not a privilege. It is your right to own a weapon. And when you start taking away rights, that's when you start losing your power in society. And that's the problem, because if you look back in history, Rome had all the power. The army of Rome had all the power. And look, what do? They take supposedly a man that was all about peace, love, and everything, and they take him, they put on a crown of thorns, they brutalize him, they bring him down the street, they humiliate him, and then they crucify him, and then make sure he's dead. I mean, is that the world that we want to come into? I don't want to live in that world. And that's what happens when only the government has weapons. I mean, if you can't defend yourself, what are you going to do? I mean, what is there to do? And then you have crazy statements by Biden.
I think it is, though. It's the way that they word it and the way that they portray it sometimes with the Second Amendment. It's oh, why do people look at all these people having guns? They're creating crimes. They're doing this. They're doing that. People shouldn't be allowed to have guns because they're not doing the right things with them. Blah, blah. All right, whatever, fine, good point. But the thing, if you really read the Second Amendment, it's the right to have a militia, and that,
right,
and that is, within itself, you need to have guns or weapons or whatever, the right to have that.
Right.
So,
right.
And that just gives you the power. If the government does become too corrupt, the people
right.
can have and will have the ability to take over. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think people don't understand that part, so to speak. I think there's sometimes too much trust in the government, which I think, anyway, at the end of the day, just inherently how people are, if interests get conflicted, and there's always needs to be a check and balance to make sure that whatever someone else, there always needs to be someone else telling you that you're doing something wrong,
Yeah. So and then you have Biden saying things you want to form a militia? Yeah. Go ahead, because we got drones, we got nuclear missiles. What are you gonna do against us?
It's true,
and it's it is true, but it's that's not you're supposed to be fighting for us. We're not supposed to be trying to. You're right. You're not supposed to be using these fighter missiles, these jets, these things to fight us, the American people. You are our weapon, our defense. That's why we pay taxes to you, right? We're collectively funding this to protect ourselves, not for you to turn it against us. Yep. And there's a lot of things. I mean, if you listen to our favorite Mr. Alex Jones and listen to what he's panicking about, and it seems to be full, not stopping at all. Like they're looking for this 100%, is this whole thing on domestic terrorists. If you are against the narrative in any way, you can be labeled a domestic terrorist and thrown away in jail or whatever, or they could use the military against us. If you go against the government, that they can use and you have like Obama saying, I mean, I can look him up. I'll see if I can find something real quick, but you have Obama saying stuff like on domestic terrorism, like as if like it's something that is running rampant. But really, if you think about it, I know one thing that really ticks me off a lot is that they write off these, the Trumpers, the people that went to the January 6th insurrection. They write them all off as idiots, as morons, as, oh, these people are stupid. I mean, even Joe Rogan, he even writes them off as stupid people or whatever, like, pea brains, But if you really think about it, these people weren't, they were saying that they noticed a corruption and they were just trying to get to the kernel of truth, which nobody on either side was really getting to the truth. Everyone was just saying, oh, I'm innocent here, but really there was something going on. And then what happened?
The saying goes, deny until you die.
Right, deny until you die. Exactly. So it's like, all these people are denying, and it got to a point where, the United States citizens, a lot of them were frustrated. They were like, listen, we're not being represented here. This is not how this is supposed to go.
It's totally valid at the end of the day.
Right. And if do
that type of stuff.
What makes me feel a little bit what makes me feel more sympathy and makes me realize that these people aren't as stupid as people are trying to label them as, is when you hear about this guy, I think his name is Ray Epps, who he was a guy that was like, let's go into the Capitol. Let's go and raid the Capitol. You hear the crowd around them. No! Fed! Idiot! What are you doing? Like when they were trying to incite violence or they were trying to do anything, the whole crowd was like, no! We're not. This is not what we're here for. We're not here for this. So it's like,
I've actually heard like something that it seemed like inside, like, someone tried to like make it seem like everybody's goal was to do that. What I mean? Like there was like some inside type of job thing. Like,
yeah,
there was people that weren't really there for the cause, but they used the cause against them,
right,
to make themselves look better.
Exactly. So
like
I mean,
like a secret agent type of thing. Like, what
right.
I mean? Like it wasn't people that really were there for that. It was just random other people just trying to create.
Well, I think there was definitely that for sure. I think there was definitely people that weren't there for that, and they were just there to start some shit. And of course, there's some crazy people. I'm not gonna. I mean, there was a million people there. I mean, of course, there's gonna be a couple of loons in a million people.
That's at the end of the day, that's how people play. There's always trying to do some dirty tricks.
Right.
When it costs them a lot to lose something, or it's easy to play dirty.
Yeah. I mean,
so much in the line.
Yeah, of course it's easier to play dirty, because especially when you're the person making the rules, right? If you play a board game with somebody or a card game with somebody, and the minute you're like, oh, I think I won, and they're like, no, that's not the rules. The rules is this and this and that, and you're like, oh, but you just told me it was something else. Yeah, well, not really, because this is not how we're playing right now. It's like, okay, then how am I going to win? You know, if you're going to change the rules on me, how am I going to win? Yeah, that's the point. I win and you lose.
The minute I lose, I change the rules.
Exactly. The minute you say check me, I'm like, no, you can't do those moves. We're playing a different version of chess, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what they're doing, and it's just like it's frustrating. So to hear that, you know, the crowd itself wasn't their stated goal was to just be present and to let the government know, like, we're not standing for your bullshit, right? And then they're labeling them as terrorists. They're labeling them. I mean, it's ridiculous. To me, it's ridiculous because they were doing what is within their rights. And then even them going into the Capitol, right? Apparently, they opened the doors. They allowed people in. A lot of these people that were going in, they didn't know. They just thought they were getting a tour of the Capitol. They just thought, oh, okay. Because what was supposed to happen was you had Trump's speech, and then there was like a little area, a section where they had another, like, where everyone from the speech would go to this section that they had permits for, and they would do like another speech. I think Alex Jones was planning on doing something there and whatever. And what happened was in the walk to this next section, it looks like it could be feds, it could be whoever, but they opened up the gates of the Capitol, and the people that were walking wasn't sure what they were going, like, what this event was going to look like. So they were thinking, oh, we're getting a tour of the Capitol. This is what we're gonna. Oh, okay. So then walking in, you know, thinking that, oh, okay, this is. Oh, wow, the United States government has opened the doors to us. Little did they know that what they were doing was framing them, you know. And then there's stories that I've heard. I mean,
it's like there's this one picture with some guy, like, he's sitting, I think, at Nancy Pelosi's desk, right?
Right, yeah.
Think about it. The Capitol building is fucking huge. How the fuck did he know exactly where to go to get Nancy Pelosi's desk?
Right. I mean, it's just nuts. But you know what I think? I think what happened was, what happened with that picture, the Capitol building is huge. And I think what happened was people were surrounding the building, right? And they were letting them in on all angles, right? So as they're going in, they've never been to this thing. According to what the guy, I mean, I've heard his testimony. I've watched the video on, I think I can find it. But what he was saying is he walked into the building, and you know, he was just like, wow, this is whatever. And then he happened to walk by Nancy Pelosi's desk, and he's like, whoa. And apparently another Fed was like, oh, take a picture. He's like, what? He's like, yeah, go ahead, you can take a picture, go ahead. So he sat down, put his foot on the desk, and took a picture. But you know, that wasn't his intention. That wasn't his plan. It was just like, they're like, yeah, here, go take a picture. So my thinking is that maybe the feds were like leading him down a certain place. Like maybe they were just like, because you have to think of the mentality of these people. These people were thinking that they were getting a tour of the Capitol, right? So people are bringing them in. Oh, come on. And they're following somebody. I mean, they're not walking aimlessly. They're not, you know, being dispersed and going crazy in the Capitol. But then at some point, what happened was somebody shot, I think a Capitol police officer started shooting. He shot a person and killed a woman for no reason, no apparent reason other than her being in the Capitol. And that caused panic. You know, once you hear a gunshot, everyone's going to panic. And that may from the outside looking in, it may look like, you know, they're rioting and going crazy. But but what it really must have been is that they were just panicked that they were going to get shot. Now they're in this Capitol that they were being walked into, and now they're hearing gunshots. Like, I'm not going to be in that building. I'm going to rush the fuck out of there too, you know? So when you have all panic, things happen. So I don't know. They're using this as like, let me see if I quickly find the Obama video, because his speech was quite jarring on domestic terrorists. Let's see. Not 7 years ago.
Just I forgot to ask what if I want to take a break, like a 5-minute break, if that's possible.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, you can take a 10 to 5 minute break. And that
5-minute break.
Yeah. If you want to take a quick break, that's not a problem. You can always take a quick break. In the meantime, we'll be putting up some clips here so that the audience can get some information while you're going. But it's okay. You can definitely take a pee break and can smoke a joint.
All right.
So I'm just gonna be
just leave it like that or stop. I can stop.
Yeah, just stay right there. I got you. If you want to I can just take you off of this right here like this, and boom. And while we're looking for Obama on domestic terrorism, because he did say something that was quite fascinating. Let me see if I find it here. I'm looking here on YouTube, and you know how hard that is with the algorithms and everything. So let me just quickly look here. Filters. Let's see, this month or this. Let's say this year. Obama's a heartless monster. Wow. Boy, oh boy. Let me see here. I apologize for those of you listening, but if you are listening, this is a good moment to plug our website. That's thepyramidshop.com. You can always go to thepyramidshop.com. On there, we'll have, emergency products, any product that will help you in the future. We have we're trying to get some meals ready to eat. We're trying to get some coffee. We're trying to get things that people need, survival gear and so on. But for now, if you're looking to donate and being, and if you're listening to the show and you haven't donate, well, if you're not donating to the show and you're listening, you are what we call Bobolongo. Now, you don't want to be a Bobolongo. Bobolongos are not good. Those are people that are just, walking around with their head up in their ass, thinking that life is great, not realizing that the world is turning to shit. So if you want to not be a Bobolongo, and if you're listening to this cast, please go to thepyramidshop.com, and I'll type it in here, thepyramidshop.com. From there, you can donate to the cast right here. Donate. And when you donate, you're no longer a Bobolongo, but again, you can see all the things that we have here. We're trying to get coffee, survival gear, telescopes, astronomy, and things of that nature. You can also find the podcast right here on thepyramidshop.com. Here you can watch the podcast right there, and we'll take you to the podcasting 2.0 apps that we are affiliated with. And we appreciate anything that you give to us. You can donate any amount. There's no amount that's too big or too small. It's a value for value podcast. So what that means is we're trying our best to give value to you, and you reciprocate in kind with the value you feel that we've provided. So whatever value that may be to you, we appreciate it. And if you are also listening to the show, you can also be a producer. And by donating to the cast, that does make you a producer. That means you can put that on, your resume. You can put that on, anywhere that it matters. And yeah, you will be a producer of this show. You can also, if you are a producer and you're listening, you can also add to the show by going to thepyramidshop.com, and you can go over here and you can contact us, and basically you'll put in your name and information, your comments, anything that you find that you would like to share with us, and we'll go ahead and we'll share with people here that are listening to the cast. So we appreciate you, and we hope that we get some donations in the future. But we're doing our best to provide good valuable content. So until you guys tell us that we're providing some value to you, we are we're going to be continually trying to find ways to provide that value to you. We appreciate you listeners, and yeah, so let's go back into looking for this Obama speech, because I really think it's important, because people have this idea of Obama, and I think that he was a very well-spoken person, but I think that ultimately he is a politician at the end of the day. He's a politician. We know politicians are corrupt, and I'm just trying to find out in what ways was he corrupt, because now as you're about to find out with this whole domestic terrorist speech, it seems like he may have some his motives on doing certain things is not as pure as we would like them to be. So let me just see here. All right, now let's just see here. Mm-hmm. Please bear with us. So I'm looking for this Obama video. It seems to be a little bit difficult to find here. I'm now questioning if this is being hidden away from me, or is this something that I have a false memory of. But I'm pretty sure I remember a domestic terrorism speech by Obama. Let me see if I can find something.
Actually,
I don't know. I can't seem to find it. That's kind of strange. I wonder if it's been buried. It was good. You're back. So I've been looking for this Obama video, but I can't seem to find it. It seems like it's been buried. That's one of the hard things about this cast, is that we report on things that are really hard to find a lot of times, because you have algorithms fighting against us. But let me see. I'm going to try one more thing. If not, I'm going to have to call it quits, and I'll do a little bit more research, and we'll bring it to you in the upcoming cast. But let me see if I can find it here, because it's quite crazy. Oh, here we go. I think I found it. All right. CBS News. All right.
Mr. President, you're going to California today, and as you said earlier this week, you told the nation that there's no specific or credible threat of a similar attack. But how is it really possible to know? I mean, aren't similar plots going to be just as hard to detect beforehand? And some lawmakers are saying that your government should review the social media of all people applying for visas to come to this country. What do you think of that idea?
So I don't know if you heard that, but the last thing she said was she feels that the government should be monitoring the social media of all people coming into this country. And she's asking him, how does he feel about that? So let's see here.
Should that be mandatory?
Well, Roberta, you're absolutely right that it is very difficult for us to detect lone wolf plots or plots involving a husband and wife in this case, because despite the incredible vigilance and professionalism of all our law enforcement, homeland security, etc., it's not that different from us trying to detect the next mass shooter. You don't always see it. They're not always communicating publicly, and if you're not catching what they say publicly, then it becomes a challenge. We are continuing to work at every level to make sure that there's no slip between information sharing among agencies. We're continuing to strengthen our information sharing with foreign countries, and because in part of the tragedy in Paris, I think you're seeing.
I don't believe this is it. I don't believe this is it. It looked promising, but I don't believe this is it. Let me see here, because it says that it was dated February 8th, 2022, but looking at it, it seems like this is dated December 18th, 2015. And I'm talking about this speech was done recent. It was 2020, 2021. It's kind of, I may have to call it quits here. Oh, terrorism. Because what he said was kind of interesting. Basically, he was going into the fact that we need to be monitoring people. We need to be, putting people, that go against the narrative, Trumpers. And I don't know if he said it exactly. I'm going based off memory. But the way he described it, it was basically like Trump supporters and stuff like that. That they should be, charged with crimes, and whether it be that they actually did something or not, the fact that they're going against their government is reason enough for them to be tried. Or what this guy Alex Jones is saying, that there's not going to be any trial. It's just going to, be, you get shuffled off into jail. But I can't seem to find it. It's going to be a little bit difficult for me to find on the fly right now. So for now, I'm going to have to call it quits. But, it's crazy that, what people don't realize is that Obama isn't as clean cut as you might think he is. Because, they're saying that a lot of the things that he did while he was president, mainly the drone strikes that he did against Afghanistan and Iraq and stuff like that, weren't the best option that you could have gone. You could have gone with a nice small insurgency team, and you're putting American lives in danger. But at the end of the day, you're not blowing up hundreds of thousands of people for the sake of whatever goal that you want. Innocent people at that. Hundreds of thousands of innocent people. They are not worth whatever goal that you're looking for, because these people have nothing to do with anything. Why are you blowing up these people? Why you think that's okay? So Obama, him using the drones as frequently as he did, I mean, to put a explanation point at the end of it, did you hear about the last drone strike that we had in Afghanistan? So that I know I can find. So the last drone strike that happened in Afghanistan, basically, they were following supposedly terrorist that they were following for him for a while, and then this drone was following him specifically all day, and they were seeing that he was making pickups and drops and stuff like that. So based on this information, they were like, oh yeah, this is the guy. This is a terrorist. They sent a nuke. Not a nuke. What am I saying? They sent a drone strike on this guy. Turns out that this guy wasn't a terrorist at all. In fact, he was operating a non-profit organization that was there to help out his community. And what he was picking up and dropping off was water containers. And he was also working with the U.S. government as well. So somebody that was working with the U.S. government, that was doing something of charity, helping the people in his community, they labeled him as a terrorist. They sent a drone strike on him, killed him, his family, his kids, for no reason whatsoever. And then they were trying to like, oh, you see, we got them. But then people were like, but who did we strike? Who did we get? And it took them a long time for them to finally reveal the fact that it was actually innocent people that we blew up. And that was just one strike that we finally heard the truth on. But let me just put it up here. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Video released on. Okay, here we go. Looks like there's no audio. Ooh. This is kind of disturbing. So, if you guys are watching this, basically it's a drone of footage of them blowing up something, blowing up this building here. But this is not what I was looking for. I was looking for. Let's see. Here we go. New York Times.
In one of the final acts of its 20-year war in Afghanistan, the United States fired a missile from a drone at a car in Kabul. It was parked in the courtyard of a home, and the explosion killed 10 people, including 43-year-old Zamarai Ahmadi.
What happened?
I think that was what you were just showing too.
Yeah. So I was showing the drone footage, but this explains. This supposedly explains exactly what happened.
And 7 children, according to his family.
It says here. Oh, sorry for those that are listening. It says he was saying all victims were part of my family, my brother, my nephews, my children.
The Pentagon claimed that Ahmadi was a facilitator for the Islamic State and that his car was packed with explosives, posing an imminent threat to U.S. troops guarding the evacuation at the Kabul airport.
The procedures were correctly followed, and it was a righteous strike.
What the military apparently didn't know was that Ahmadi was a longtime aid worker who colleagues and family members said spent the hours before he died running office errands and ended his day by pulling up to his house. Soon after, his Toyota was hit with a 20-pound Hellfire missile. What was interpreted as the suspicious moves of a terrorist may have just been an average day in his life. And it's possible that what the military saw Ahmadi loading into his car were water canisters he was bringing home to his family, not explosives. Using never-before-seen security camera footage of Ahmadi, interviews with his family, co-workers, and witnesses, we will piece together for the first time his movements in the hours before he was killed.
So yeah, that's goes to show you like this is how we select our targets. I mean, if we're gonna blow up some aid worker, and we did our research, he was some kind of terrorist. He had explosives, and we did our due diligence and everything checked out. Okay, hit the button, it's blow. But really, what did you do? You didn't do your research because clearly he wasn't the target that you were looking for. He's not somebody that was going to come after you. And that's just one example of the thousands of drone strikes that happened over the course of this war. And a lot more happened under Obama's regime than under Bush. So it's like, on the one hand, Obama is somebody that everyone elevates up on a pedestal as, the president that everyone looked up to and everyone, believed in or whatever. But on the other hand, really, can we really look at him as, can we really elevate him as this humanitarian when he's, willingly to haphazardly throw drone strikes at people? I mean, and knowing that how that turned out, I mean, this is one out of I don't know how many, but we don't get to know what happened with the other one. So it only begs the question, what really happened, So I don't know. I just I feel like what the world is going into is kind of nuts. I didn't find the Obama footage, but Obama was saying that domestic terrorists is a thing. And if that's the case, then that drone strike and all that stuff and those mistakes that they made could easily be done right here by our own people. And that's what's scary, at least to me.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
So now it's time to move along here because
it begs the question, why does that guy have so many explosives in his car?
Right, and if he did have any explosives, like, I mean, I guess it's hard for the United States government to really confirm some sources or documents or anything like that. But if you're gonna blow up somebody, you know, I would recommend that you go above and beyond to make sure that your target is, because all that's going to do is strengthen the Taliban. And look, we got out of Afghanistan, and what happened? The Taliban is now in full control of Afghanistan. So it's like, what did we do? We did nothing. In fact, we went in there, we made it worse, and now all the people that live there have a knowledge of America raping and pillaging their land, because all they're doing is blowing up their sacred sites, their places of worship, their society is being blown up by this war, supposedly. And that's how these citizens are going to grow up on. So I could imagine they don't look at Americans as you know, the nice people that we are, that we try to be. They're looking at us like, what the hell are these people doing? They're killing our people. And I'm sure there's a lot of angry people, and you know, that's what caused the 2001 in the first place. 9/11, you know, was happened because of the Mujahideen and us, you know, supposedly supporting Afghanistan, when really we're just providing them weapons and guns so that the Mujahideen, after we left them, you know, can run rampant and do whatever the hell they wanted. And, you know, there goes, because apparently before this whole Soviet invasion, Afghanistan was a wonderful place. It was like San Francisco in the Middle East. It was like women could be open. They didn't need to wear their burqas. It was like, you know, women's rights was a thing in the 70s. It was like a wonderful place to be at some point. And then you have this war, and the Mujahideen started putting, you know, more stricter enforcement, and they were not great people. I mean, they fought against the Russians, but on the other hand, they forced the women to wear burqas, and if you didn't, they would throw acid on her face, or, you know, there's a lot of things that they did that was really horrible, you know. So to then say that, we had no part of it. Well, we gave them all the weapons and the guns and all that stuff to do what they did. So it's just, you know, forgetting what we are doing, or not realizing that, you know, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, you know, not realizing that what we do out there could have an effect. And this is what caused Osama bin Laden to blow up the World Trade Center in the first place, you know, because of how we acted. So I don't know. I mean, another thing is like what Ernesto Morado would say is like, you know, the Superman conundrum, where you're fighting this super villain, right? You're doing your best, but in the meantime, you're destroying buildings, you're destroying things, right? But Superman's like, listen, I'm trying to save you from this guy. But people are like, yeah, Superman, but did you have to blow up my fucking building? I mean, I live here, you know? So like, you know, people think that people have the interpretation that, you know, Superman is this great hero, but to the citizens, he may not appear as such, because every time he shows up, everything blows up, everything comes undone, you know, although he tries to save people from horrible villains that are doing this thing. It's not really him, but in him trying to fight against it, like, you know, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't kind of thing, you know? So, I mean, moving along, though, now we're entering the second hour, which brings into our conspiracy hour. And I wanted to go over Mr. Klaus Schwab. And so there's this thing. It's called Operation High Jump. Do you have any idea what that is? So Operation High Jump, I have some clips here on that as well. And I'm going to bring up a Joe Rogan clip here because he had a guest that touched on the subject as well. But Operation High Jump is a very fascinating operation that the United States government did. basically, I think it was in the 1940s. In the 1940s, the United States government got a fleet of their best planes, the best jet fighters, the best helicopters, the best ships and aircraft carriers, submarines, and they all went to Antarctica. And their point to go to Antarctica was, their stated reasoning was that they were doing some kind of training, winter training, to see how they would respond in cold weather, and how their equipment works in frozen temperatures and stuff like that. But if you peel back the onion, people have found that the real reason for them going to Antarctica was so that they can claim Antarctica as America. They can, do like in Alaska and basically claim the continent as part of America. But when they got there, they were surprised. Apparently, they were greeted by 2 UFOs that came out of the water. Yep, they came out of the water, and they started attacking their ships, like flying saucers. They would come out of the water and started attacking their ships, to a point where they came back a lot shorter. So I think they had like they were stated to be there for like 6 months, and they only came back. They came back in 40 days. After 40 days, they came back with their ass, with their tails between their legs. They got their ass handed to them. The reason that they know that it was UFOs and all these things is because A, the crew, but B, the guy who led the expedition, his name is Richard Byrd. And Byrd was a very well decorated admiral, and it was a very young admiral, and it takes it's very rare for someone that young to be an admiral, but he had a lot of medals, a lot of accommodations. He was very well qualified, very well respected, and very well known at the time. Mr. Admiral Byrd was a very famous military man and very known. So, like, if he said something, people listen. He's not bullshitting. He went through the military ranks, and normally those people are conditioned to be open, honest, and kind of curt and frank about what things are, how things are approaching, especially when it comes to enemies, because they need to get this information out as clear and concise as possible to the people so that it can go up the chain of command. Yep. So when he got encountered with these UFOs, he was like, what the fuck? And he was like, going to America, like, we have an enemy that we cannot defeat. They can go from these machines can go from pole to pole in a matter of in a blink of an eye. Like, these things are very, very advanced, and there's no way we can beat them. Right? So, that being said, the United States government was like, okay, this mission that was supposedly an open mission to the public is now classified, and you can't talk about what you've said, and everything that you've learned dies with you. You cannot say anything to anyone. But luckily, he had a change of heart right before he died. He had a secret diary, which apparently, as a military man, you're supposed to keep diaries of everything that you do while you're in active duty. So he kept a diary of everything. And the United States government obviously confiscated all his diaries, but he had a secret one that, he gave to his son right before he passed away. And in this secret diary, he had revealed that there was a flight that he had during this whole operation to kind of navigate and see the land of Antarctica. So he's in a jet fighter, right, in an airplane. He's flying along. And he notices that there's mountain ranges. And he's like, that's odd. There shouldn't be any mountain ranges down here. But I guess there's mountain ranges. This is new. Okay. He's flying some more. And then he looks down and he's seeing that it's starting to change color. He's like, that's even more crazy. Like, it shouldn't it should only be white down there. It shouldn't be any sort of green whatsoever. But he's noticing that it's getting greener and greener and greener, and he reaches a part of Antarctica that looks like a countryside, like just green grass mountains. And he's like, what the fuck? We're in Antarctica. There should be no green anywhere, right? So then he starts he's flying along, and he sees that his instruments are going haywire, right? They're going all over the place, kind of like what you hear with the Bermuda Triangle, with what happened with Amelia Earhart and all that stuff, which I think has something to do. There's some kind of connection there. I don't know what, but there's something there. So his instruments are going crazy, and he's like, okay. So now he's using the sun to navigate, right? Okay, the sun's there. I know where I am more or less. As he's looking down at the green grass below, he's like noticing animals. He's like, what the fuck is that? And he's looking at it, and he's like, wait a minute, is that an elephant? So he circles around, he goes down, gets lower to get a better view, and he notices, holy fuck, that's a woolly mammoth. What the fuck? There's a woolly mammoth down here. So, and then he starts touching his windscreen, and he's like, holy shit, it's kind of warm. He looks at his gauge, and it says 74 degrees. He's like, what the fuck? So as he's flying along, and this is all in his journal, as he's flying along, his engine stops to work. It's like, and it's starting to stop. And eventually his engine shuts off completely. And he's like, what the fuck is going on? But his plane is still flying, right? So he's like, okay, my engine's not working, but I'm still like in flight. And he's trying to use his controls, and his controls aren't doing anything. So he's like in some kind of like tractor beam and some kind of like thing that's controlling him. 30 minutes later, he hears a German type voice, a Nordic German accent, say, hello, welcome. You'll be landing in about 30 minutes. And he's like, what the hell? So he gets there. Apparently, he gets greeted by these tall, blonde hair, blue-eyed people, right? And they're explaining to him that, they're coming from the place called Arania, which is some place in the center of the world, apparently. Mm-hmm. And he went on this elevator that they brought him onto to have an audience with somebody called the Master. Now, the Master sits down with this guy, and he says to him, he's like, listen, this is Arania. And when he looks into the city, it's like a huge shining city with like this light source in the center of it. And he says it looks like a sun, like within this city, right? And this guy is saying, look, we're Iranians, and this is Arania, and we are Iranians. We're Aryans, from Arania. And we've been trying to communicate with your government, but every time we send one of I forgot what they fucking called it. It was a word, like a flugelhorn, I think it was. It was like, that's what they called the flying saucer. It was like a flugel something. That was what they named it. So we sent our flugelhorns out there, and every time we would send them out there, they would get shot at. So they couldn't, communicate, because every time they're sending somebody out there to communicate, they're always getting shot at. So like they didn't know what to do. And they have this technology, and what they've been saying to him is that that the reason they are coming out now is because at that point, which was in either the 40s or the 50s, at that point they already blew up the atomic missile in Nagasaki. And they're saying that, humanity, it's too young. We're too young as a species to be messing around with atomic weapons, because all it's going to do is going to lead to our own demise. So they don't want that. They're trying to prevent that. So that's what they are telling this guy. And after about like maybe 30 minutes or so, they wrap up their conversation. They send him back up on the elevator. He's back on his jet. They put him in this tractor beam thing. He still has no control of his jet until like 30 minutes later. And then he hears a voice on his radio that goes, "Auf Wiedersehen," and he's able to control his jet and he's able to get back. So this is the account of this very well acclaimed, very respected admiral. This is what he said happened to him, and he goes to the government and he's like, dude, we got a serious problem here. Oh, and I forgot to mention something. So when the UFOs came up next to him at land, the plane, he looked at them. They had strange markings on the side of the UFO, and he looked at him and he saw the swastika, the German swastika on it. And he's like, what the fuck? And he was really scared about this because he's like, oh my God, Nazis. Now, how Nazis play into this is because in World War II, this guy Hitler was very into the occult, and he was on a mission on gathering as many relics of the old world as he possibly can. And apparently, there's a thing that's going around that they're saying that, you know, the Nazis technically didn't win or didn't lose the war in World War II. It was, in fact, the Germans that lost, not the Nazis. Because what happened to the Nazis was they fled, right? They fled Germany. And then there was another operation that I'm not sure you've heard, but it's called Operation Paperclip. Operation Paperclip was after World War II. We were put on a stance between us and Russia. We had that Cold War between us and Russia. So in order for us to be still technologically more advanced in Russia, we ended up taking a lot of the scientists from the Nazi scientists from Germany. One of the biggest people that I know of that came out of Operation Paperclip was Werner von Braun. Werner von Braun was the head of NASA. And they said if he was alive today, they would prosecute him for crimes against humanity because he would hang the slowest Jews that would work like the in front of his rocket center. He would be hanging the slowest Jews there, and as he's eating his lunch, you know, this guy was no good person. This guy was a horrible person. He's seen horrible things, done horrible things, but yet we bring him into America. We give him safe harbor, him along with many other scientists that were Nazi criminals is what they are, and they were living a safe life. And because of Werner von Braun, we according to the story, that he was the person that got us to the moon. Okay, so that was Operation Paperclip. So a lot of what people are noticing is that the Nazi Party really didn't get disbanded. Nothing really happened to them. In fact, they were elevated to different positions of power. I mean, being put into the head of NASA, that's a big thing. I mean, especially you're in our government too, because NASA is our government entity for space. So imagine, you know, the power that these people had. So in the Nazis fleeing from Germany, one of the theories is that they fled to Antarctica through their German U-boats. The U-boats were running off of nuclear power, so there was U-boats running around even many, many years. I think there's still German U-boats in operation from World War II today, in still operation. So that goes to show you, you know, that the technology that they had back then was still very advanced. And they say that they fled to Antarctica. They created a base called 211, and from that base is where they've been operating this whole time. and that folds into the hollow Earth theory. I don't know if you've heard of that, but I know people the tinfoil hats, and basically the hollow Earth theory is saying that if it is true, and this is kind of important because right now I'm saying all these things because I'm noticing right now that, first of all, the United States government said that UFOs are real. They exist and they are real. Okay. And not only did they say that, but they also said that they're off-world vehicles, not of this planet.
Yeah.
So they're saying that these things exist. And you have this documentarian, Jeremy Corbell, who's reporting on thousands of different instances, but he says that, like, you know how a lot of times these UFO things, they say it's a weather balloon or some kind of a weather anomaly or whatever that could be explained away. Well, he's saying that in these UFO occurrences that he has and the footage that he has, the data that he has is irrefutable because he has data corroborated from different sources. He has radar, he has regular footage, he has FLIR footage, he has footage from the jet planes, all corroborating on the same event, because you have military exercises trying to figure out what the hell these UFOs are. So you have them in a spectrum. So you can't say that, oh, the radar was bad. The radar had some kind of malfunction that was playing tricks with you or whatever, because it wasn't just on radar. It was on radar. It was on thermal. It was on the FLIR. It was on all these other sources, and people would visually see it too. So it's like you can't refute this evidence. So that's what's going on now. And then Jeremy Corbell just revealed on Joe Rogan's podcast that now, because of the war in Ukraine, the UFO sightings have quadrupled, and they're more prevalent now than they've ever been before, and they're popping up over air bases. They're popping up over war places of war, like in the Ukraine, Taiwan, in places where there's nuclear missiles. They're popping up all over the place. So he's like, A, the government said that they are real. B, there's more of them. And C, they're happening to be around all these nuclear bases, in all these Air Force bases and things like that. So it's irrefutable that they're existing. So why this ties into Operation High Jump is because they were saying that the technology that was reported back then is the same technology that they're reporting now. They're saying that they can jump from pole to pole and in an instant, that these UFOs operate off something called antimatter or gravity propulsion. So it's silent. It doesn't make a noise. And the new UFOs apparently aren't in the saucer shape that we're all used to seeing. In fact, they're the new UFOs apparently are spherical. There's like in Halo, the gravity shield, the bubble shield, it's like that. It's like a bubble shield, and inside that shield is a square object, some kind of cube inside this sphere, and they call it like a jellyfish. It almost looks like a jellyfish the way you see it visually. And they're popping up all over the place, and they're silent. And a lot of the things that what we don't realize is that they have like active camo. They can, sometimes you can see them, sometimes you can't. Sometimes they're on thermal, but they're not visually available. Sometimes they're on radar, but they're not, visually seen. Or, there's a lot of ways that they evade our detection. So it's tough for us to see them, but they have been getting caught a lot. There are footage of them. So this is just a preface what I have here. So this is Joe Rogan's podcast. He's the guy he's interviewing, Sam Tripoli, another avid conspiracy theorist and comedian as well. But a lot of what he's saying is is backed by documents. I mean, some of it could be a little bit out there. Some of it sounds like some of it could be a little bit debunked. But based on what I'm finding here, based on my research, it seems like Operation High Jump was a real thing. This guy, Admiral Byrd, was a real person. The things that he faced were real. And they're finding out that, you know, that this is going on now. Like these things that we can't explain are going on now, which has me a little worried, because if it turns out that they're Nazis, then what? What's the next? Because I think a lot of what people are saying, like, oh, why is the government saying that all of a sudden now that there's UFOs? You know, why is this all of a sudden happening now? And I think it's because right now, like, they know that they can say UFO without having their facade being blown apart. I think because they are not revealing all that they know. They're just saying, oh, look, there's UFOs or whatever. So that right now what they're doing, which is kind of, this guy Jeremy Corbell just recently said, is that they're doing UFO hearings in Congress, and they just recently are passing a bill that says that anyone that has any information on UFOs, that were in government, that were in whatever, that they can come forward and not have any repercussions or blowback whatsoever. So now all the information that was being hidden is going to come to the light. So, I mean, things like this guy, Bob Lazar. Have you heard of Bob Lazar?
Yeah, you love Bob Lazar.
Yeah, Bob Lazar is the bomb. But, you know, he was the one that, you know, gave us the idea and knowledge, because apparently now this guy, Jeremy Corbell, he confirmed he did work in Area 51. Everything that he said, he confirmed it. And what he's trying to find out is, like, because Bob Lazar is a little bit skeptical of the things that they told him, because what he was under his understanding, it's like the government tells you something just to see if you're going to say it. And if you do say it, they know, oh, that's what we told Bob Lazar. So we already know that it was you, because this information got leaked and that information was only connected to you. And it might have been bullshit. You know, they might just tell you one thing, but the fact is a different story. They're just telling you what they want you to know.
Yeah, they want you to know.
So that if you leak it out, they know, oh, it was this guy, because we only told this guy this version. So a lot of what he learned he's a little skeptical of, but what they told him was that he was working on these UFOs that were part of an archaeological dig. Yep. These came from, I believe, Sirius, and that you know, they have this gravity propulsion that is working off of element 115. Element 115 bends gravity, and this is what he's been saying since the 80s. Now they're saying that this technology, element 115, they finally created it, when at the time when he was saying it, it was impossible.
No.
And now they're showing that there's more UFOs. Now they're showing that there's more things going on. So it's like, you know, whatever this guy was saying at first, you know, people would debunk him and say, he's a loon. But now, now that things are coming to the light, it seems like what he was saying was more and more credible.
Yeah.
So another aspect of this is this guy, Klaus Schwab. Klaus Schwab is the head of the World Economic Forum, and apparently his father was a confidant and somebody high up in the Nazi party.
Yep.
So he also had some time in this place called Schwabenland, which is this area that they created in Antarctica.
Yeah.
So now this guy Klaus Schwab is saying all these things. That one of the newest things that he was saying is that they're gonna ban private car ownership. that from at a certain point, I guess from 2030 on, you're not allowed to own a private car.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, yeah, everything is like, I guess, Uber, like
Yeah,
a
or like
ride sharing kind of thing.
it's like we're
Or
moving into this thing where everybody is just going to be renting and just not even owning anything.
right.
And that's like
One
their
of the
plan
things.
away.
Have you seen his?
You hear a lot of these bigger financial institutions, like let's say BlackRock for some reason.
Mhm.
They're buying up a lot of land, a lot of housing and stuff like that. Like,
Mhm.
what is the reason for these guys to buy that type of stuff? You know what I mean? So they can rent it out to you, right? So
Exactly.
and they're the
Yeah.
ones that kind of let's say like this whole thing with COVID, right? Which is within itself, kind of debatable, I think, on a lot of different aspects of the way things went. But they started printing all this money. They started making 0% loans, and
right after it,
whatever, like this fractional reserve banking that we have basically gives like banks the ability to print like unlimited amounts of money or whatever, and
Right.
these big corporations taking loans, buying things on the cheap because 0% interest rates, and then at the same time bumping up the prices, so it makes it too expensive for someone else to buy it.
Mhm.
So I mean, and then on 0% interest, what's going to happen? Equities is going to keep going up,
Right.
securities or whatnot, and housing prices are going to go up, no problem, because everyone would just take money out, no problem.
Mhm.
Especially if you have
Yeah, I mean, that's where like that's another thing, I mean, my spouse really looks at me like, are you just a bearer of bad news? But it's just like everything I look into is hard because it's like in every facet of life, it just seems like there's always it's like a smoke and mirrors. Like there's always something beyond what you think. Like, whether it be the food industry, not I like when you mentioned BlackRock, a lot of food companies. You're walking through the supermarket and you see Kellogg's, you see General Mills, you see all these different brands and all these things, but you don't realize that they all funnel into just one
big
company.
conglomerate. Yep. Like
And that one company, right? And that one company is they don't care about the original brands. I would imagine the original brands that started, like even Whole Foods, for example, when they started, they were all about, what they were about, bringing whole foods, bringing good food, blah, blah, blah. But then once they started coming together under this one brand, under this one house, that reasoning for them existing shifted from their stated reasoning of, like, let's say Whole Foods, for example, of bringing good wholesome foods to now bringing good wholesome profit, and that's where everything else kind of shifts, because now, like, the cereals and everything that we eat, it's not really about, is it nutritionist, is it good for us, is it tasty, is it all these things. It's about, is it going to provide enough profit for us to continue, or for us to show a bigger revenue this year than we did last year. And it's always about growth and growing instead. And like, I don't ever hear of a company just wanting to maintain, like, just not grow, just stay the same. Okay, we made $10 million this year, let's just continuously make $10 million.
It's I think that's just business in general. Like any good businessman is always striving to grow. I mean, that's just you have to. There's always going to be more competition. There's always going to be new people trying to do the same thing, or there's always going to be just in general competition. So you always have to grow. It's just I think as a businessman and as an investor, that's what you want to see, because you don't want to see if you're not making more sales, more revenue, that means someone else is taking it from you. Or even if you're not losing, the new potential business you could have, someone else is taking it, because there's always going to be money has to flow somewhere. I mean, any good
That's true.
economic country, there's always a good circulation of money. So, you know, I get what you're trying to say. I think, you know, the thing with Whole Foods though is, you know, maybe when it wasn't a public company before, yeah, they were trying to just do, you know, what was their core beliefs and, you know, just bringing Whole Foods to the table and stuff like that. And, you know, I think they've been around for many years before they were even became public. I mean, they 20 years, something like that, I think. So
But not only did they go public, but you know they were also bought out by Amazon, right? So then,
yeah, of course.
So then, like you know, now you have somebody who their Amazon's goal wasn't, you know, what Whole Foods' goal was. You know, Amazon's goal was about the other P, the profit. You know, and the thing that I've noticed that is like it's as things go on. Like look at Apple, for example. Apple, when Steve Jobs was around, although Steve Jobs isn't no saint and he has, you know, his flaws and whatever, you know, his thing was the product, right? It was about the product. The product is everything. You know, that was his passion. When he died, the product no longer seemed to be the stated goal for Apple. It seemed like it was more about the profit than the product, because the product hasn't gotten, like, to me, it hasn't felt as unique and as artistic and as, you know, clever and as everything that Steve Jobs had, you know, tried to enforce in Apple. It kind of veered away from that to what's the product that's going to bring the most profit, you know, and that I don't think that was Steve Jobs' goal at all. His goal was to make the best product, and I think that's what elevates a lot of these companies. These companies all focus first on their product and people enjoy their product. And then after they are now being publicly traded, the product falters. You know, the product starts to get a little bit.
They need to impress the shareholders.
Exactly.
Like a public company, you know, it's like, I mean, when I was in business school, I used to make fun of like finance majors. You know,
right.
Like, oh, if you talk to a finance major, you talk about their what is business, something like that, and you know, they always feel like making fun like a parrot, like, oh, increase shareholder value. You know, that's because that's what you're taught in finance. You know, it's how can you know,
increase shareholder value,
because that's the whole idea when you're an investor. You want to invest something that the value of your shares is going to go up. So I mean, a lot of these public companies, you know, they have to report earnings every 3 months, every quarter, and they have to show a better bottom line, or to show some revenue growth, or show some way of cutting expenses. And you know, especially, you know, the media, you know, is very tough. You know what I mean? You say any little thing, and they
spin it, they do whatever.
They do whatever, exactly. So, you know, it's you know, public markets are great, and that, you know, there's a lot of you know, inflow of money and capital creation into these companies and for shareholders and stuff. But at the same time, you know, it's when these guys just start only thinking about the profits, and you get those bad people in the wrong places, or the right person in the wrong place.
Right.
You know, it's
like the intro.
Yeah,
the right man in the wrong place can make all the difference.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I was thinking about when I said, but you know, that's what happens. You know, and then you end up getting these corrupt companies that take advantage of things, and you know, it's all about money. So I mean, unfortunately, but I mean, also unfortunately in this world, you know, the only way you can really get something done is if you have a lot of money. You know. It's one of the.
So it's like
a tool in your toolbox is money. You know, it makes everything easy, but at the same time, it also makes a big conflict of interest for a lot of things. People tend to sacrifice a lot for money, and just for money, you know. And
I mean, look at the workforce.
You can get a lot of things with money, you know. People will sacrifice a lot of other aspects of life just so they can be financially stable. So I guess, like, you know, recent events, you see everything with all this money printing and stuff and inflation, blah, blah. You know, it really affects a lot of people. And you don't have enough money to put on the table, you know.
Yeah. I was actually gonna jump into this Joe Rogan clip, but you know what? Our conversation jumped into a little tangent, and I think I have something that really goes into what we were talking about here with when it comes to like economy. And I'd like to hear your input on this because you have a little bit of a background on finance, and I don't know, because there's a reporter that we rely on, and we like his reportings because he makes it very clear in a small time frame. So he brings down like a lot of the things, and one of the things that what we were talking about, like product and finances, is he brought up this thing, World War III and the imminent collapse of the US dollar. Now I don't know, like we've been saying, the government has the ability to print money, and there's a lot of things that are going on, but I would love to hear being that you have an expertise a little bit in finance, that I would like to hear your perspective, because I don't know. I take this guy. I mean, we always take everything for a grain of salt. We never believe wholeheartedly in everything. We always question everything. But so I would like to see where the holes in this argument is. So you might be better to point them out than I would. So let me play this one before we get into the crazy UFO stuff.
Thierry on Twitter wrote that everyone who touches Zelensky resigns, which is interesting. After failing the UK at every opportunity to serve globalist interests, Boris Johnson resigns as prime minister, to which the Russian Kremlin expressed good riddance. Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi, who helped deliver Italian weapons to Ukraine and rallied support for Ukraine's entry into the EU, announced his resignation. Last month, Estonian Prime Minister Kaja Kallas expelled the populist center-left Center Party, claiming that she needed to form a new government to support Ukraine in their war against Russia. And on Thursday, Kallas officially resigned as a formality to form a new government, which he has already reached a consensus between the center-right Reform Party, the Social Democrats, and the conservative Fatherland Party, to form a new three-party government to support Ukraine. And Sri Lanka's president, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who supported the Ukraine despite sanctions crippling his own nation, emailed in his resignation after fleeing the country. Beyond resignations, and beyond meet and greets with Ukraine's puppet President Zelensky, we have also just seen the assassination of popular anti-globalist leader Shinzo Abe, and the dramatic loss of confidence expressed by the people towards Macron, Trudeau, and Biden. What is happening here? On Celia Farber's The Truth Barrier, Catherine Austin Fitz explains that we are seeing a clean-out or political castration of leaders. Draghi, Johnson, Biden, Macron, Abe. Their political capital is exhausted, and/or they will not push the next wave aggressively. Mr. Global is looking to bring in a whole new round of fresh, meaner leadership. The next wave is total collapse. And it's not easy to find people willing to be the fall guy for the destruction of a nation. It takes a special type of person, which might explain why California Governor Gavin Newsom visited the White House right after Joe Biden was shuffled off to Israel to mumble about the Holocaust. Biden is even unsettling to the stupid, and this entire operation requires stupidity. So things are going to keep getting stranger, but it probably won't last much longer because the global financial reset is now imminent. Sri Lanka was just the beginning, and it looks like South Africa could be next, followed by everyone. The fiat fractional reserve banking scheme has been robbing the people blind for decades. But eventually, all the money runs out. And the financial pundits are all saying it's this year. The dollar has just reached parity with the euro. And fudging the numbers will no longer work. They have only one solution left, and that's war. War has often been used to save failing fiat currencies. And having no other options, the psychotic bureaucrats in charge will go to war with Russia, which will only hasten the financial collapse of the West. If it comes to World War III, then it will be the final death blow, making way for a new system. Which means that unless you're holding on to real money, you will soon be broke, because all that paper in our wallets and numbers on our screens is going to soon be worthless. Reporting for InfoWars, this is Greg Reese.
Kind of crazy, huh?
Kind of crazy.
Yeah, his reports are always that level of crazy. Do you think that that's something that could happen? You think that collapse is something that we're inching our way towards? Is that something you're seeing?
Yeah, in some aspects.
I don't understand the how the dollar and the euro reaching parity. How does that affect us in any way? What does that really mean?
I didn't really understand all that so much either.
Because I guess what he's saying is that the euro and the dollar are equal or something like that.
Yeah, and usually the euro is more powerful than the dollar.
So how would that affect us? I don't know.
I don't know. I guess it wouldn't be profitable for them to trade with us at that point. Because
then
they wouldn't have more purchasing power. Usually the dollar is used as the world reserve currency. So most things are marked in the dollar. No matter where you shop, like everyone could refer to the dollar. People take dollars everywhere because
right
exchangeable. So that's like kind of like Bitcoin, right? Have the argument with Bitcoin and stuff like that. Like people are like, oh no, we should use Bitcoin as like the thing. But then people always arguing like, oh, you want your dollar to not be as strong as you want the Bitcoin to be stronger, but Bitcoin it's not influenced by outside forces. There's 21 million Bitcoin that only beats 21 million Bitcoin. It's not like the government can just print whatever they want, which in a way is still good, printing money and all that type of stuff. But I just think the way that they did it was kind of overblown. And,
so when you say Bitcoin is finite, right? Like it's let's say how many pieces of Bitcoin are there?
21 million. There's 21 million full Bitcoin.
Okay, so
there ever will be. Right now there isn't in circulation. It's actually being mined and all that stuff by computers. But
so like that's what I was going to ask.
Supposedly to mine the last Bitcoin is going to take some crazy amount of years. I don't know the amount of years, but it's supposed to be a lot.
So that's what I was going to ask. Is mining Bitcoin the same as like printing money? Is that like
not really, because mining Bitcoin is more. It's like mining gold. Gold is supposedly supposed to be like finite, but we don't know how much there is in the world. We only know that there's only ever so much of it. Don't know how fast it is, whatever. I don't know, but it's kind of like that kind of aspect. Like there's always only going to be 21 million, so it's not like you can, because essentially when you print more money, technically what happens is like you're going to devalue the rest of the currency because it's going to be more circulation. It's like it's kind of like I think the way economics kind of works is like whoever has the biggest piece of the pie or the market share. Everyone's always competing for the higher net worth. Who has the most share of of the currency. So in a way, and it's a little more complicated than that, but I think that's like probably the easiest way I think for me to explain it, because it's all competition at the end of the day, right? So it's all just a game. I don't know.
No, but I appreciate your perspective on this, and like I said,
I did understand the war part, which kind of makes sense because war has always been used as something to stimulate the economy. Because the more war, the more money they have to pour into it, and that creates more jobs and more,
and I could also imagine like
you have more
it
jobs,
helps.
creates more money. It creates value.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, maybe not the value you technically want, not really you could say good value, but it does at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, the other thing I was gonna say was what I think what war does is like it positions yourself as like whoever's the winner is the superpower, right? So like that I'm sure has some kind of financial impact,
Sure, yeah, you take over more, whatever. But I mean, not even just financial impact. I mean, what is money technically was created for, right? To civilize things. That's the way I see it. Right?
That's a good point.
Money was created in a way to civilize because before people used to try to fight people, kill people. Violence was a way to show power. I mean, let's say you watch all these animes, right, and stuff like that. Like you have Goku, the strongest guy, no one wants to fuck with him, or he started fucking anyone that fucks with his shit. It's kind of like that. I mean, people are afraid of you; they'll do what you want.
Right.
Or if you're loved with power, then they'll do what you want too. And so I guess money just kind of gives you power to do things. It's just a universal tool that everyone accepts. So that's just the way I see it. So it's kind of like contradictive in a way that they want to go into more war, but it's not really contradictive because it create more money. And if you really want to be more civilized, why would you be going to war? Why don't you find another way to do something? But war is just an easy way to create more money because it creates more jobs, and some of these countries, that's how they make money, is exporting guns and stuff, selling guns.
Yeah, and then the materials and that's where it's crazy. I mean, that's if what he's saying is true, and it seems like, I mean, we can look back and read about World War I and World War II and stuff like that, but while it was happening, I don't believe that the people of the day thought that they were in a world war. They just were fighting a war, right? They were fighting something. And then it wasn't until we stepped back and we're like, wow, this was like a world war. Like the whole world was fighting, right? And then we never thought we would ever get into that again. And then World War II happened. And then we're like, whoa. Which is another like crazy thing, because we were like, World War II happened and we're fighting Germans and Nazis, and then we're fighting Japan, and we're fighting communism, and we're fighting, there's a lot of things that but at the time, I'm sure nobody thought, oh, we're in another World War II. They just thought, oh, we're saving people or whatever, until like, later on they start to realize, oh my God, this is another world war. So I feel like we're kind of like in the middle of that now, and everyone's kind of on edge because we're all waiting for that pin to drop, where that the shot heard around the world, that thing that's going to make. I kind of thought a lot of people were thinking that it was Pelosi going to visit Taiwan. That was going to be the catalyst that brought us into war. I'm very nervous about it. I'm very, very scared because I don't want, a world war, but it's possible. And the things that I'm hearing that are possible in this war is, I think this war is going to be different than any wars past, because this war has a different angle, a different element. And that element is technology. And that technology is going to be in a different frame, because I think, like, a lot of the things that they could do is they could easily hack into our, energy facilities and just turn off the power, or they can, do stuff, oh, now we don't have any internet. They can just, hack Facebook or whatever and say, you know what, the hell with your Instagram or whatever. There's a lot of things that could happen, which, doesn't necessarily need to be an explosion that could, put strategic powers, strategic elements in place for war or whatever. Because now you have people fighting for things and whatever, they're not distracted, and that could be, as opposed to just blowing up people. I don't know if they're gonna resort to blowing up people. The fact that Russia is doing it makes it seem like it's not above them. It's not like something they won't use, but it's crazy. It's crazy that we're living in this time. I mean, it's even crazier looking back. Like we lived through the 9/11. Like we saw it. We not only did we live through it, but we were in the state that it happened. I was able to see it with my own two eyes. I saw the smoke, and I have family that lived in Manhattan and walked through the soot, and it's a different thing. But it's like this how I'm sure the people felt in World War II. Like they had people that lived through it and felt through it, and my mom has always been telling me like she feels a little bit guilty for bringing us into the world because what world could she have brought us into because of all the craziness and nonsense that's happening. But I think no matter what, I mean, no matter what, there was always some kind of craziness. I mean, I'd rather this crazy world than being into a world where you have what's this guy Vlad the Impaler, impaling people for sake of pleasure. Back in those days in medieval times where they would just you're innocent till proven guilty, just throw them on the gallows and let the people just or let's just go and rape and pillage, and if we were successful, then you're a slave and thrown into a gladiator ring and fought for your life, and then you become a hero, but realizing that you're a hero because you're a lot of people are fans of you, but in reality, these people, their government burned your whole life down to the ground and made you this. And I'd rather this lifetime for sure. Yeah. It wasn't better before. It was not better before. Okay, so it looks like we're getting closer to the end of our cast here. We're at 2 hours and 21 minutes. So we're knee deep in the middle of our conspiracy segment, and I wanted to just go back into this Operation High Jump. So let's go into the Joe Rogan experience and him giving. I mean, I gave a brief overview, but this is another clip that will help get us to where I'm trying to go with this.
The Joe Rogan experience.
Yeah. Have you ever looked into Klaus Schwab's dad? No. Have you ever heard of New Schwabenland? New Schwabenland. You never heard of New Schwabenland? No. Have you ever heard of Operation High Jump?
Yo,
Yeah.
I don't see this clip.
Oh, you're not seeing it? Oh, hold on. There we go.
There you go. Yeah.
There we go.
No, dude, it's Operation High Jump. What does that mean? Okay, so at one point, some people are like, what's going on with Antarctica? Have you heard of this? Where they sent Admiral Byrd up? What's going on in Antarctica? Yeah, so the U.S. government's like, something's going on with Antarctica. There's some activity up there. We want to find out what's going on. So they send this cat named Admiral Byrd up to investigate with a giant fleet, just a fleet to go bang, bro. When was this? I think this was in the when was Eisenhower in? Was it the 50s? Yeah, it was 60s? Like right around just either around World War II or right after it. And so they sent Admiral Byrd up to go find out. And according to his journal that they found much later, he basically met with UFOs, Nazi UFOs. What? Yes. Nazi UFOs. The Nazis had a flying saucer. Had made a deal basically working with interdimensional. You've never heard this? No. It's the greatest story ever, bro. It's the greatest story. Nazis made a deal with the aliens? Yes. Holy shit. For technology, and the deal was they were going to work together, okay? I know this sounds crazy. So basically, the aliens go down and Klaus Schwab's dad go down and meet with Eisenhower. It's gonna be like we could either do it one way or the other way. We can do it nice or we can do it the wrong way. And that's where they say Eisenhower made a deal.
So what he's saying is that Klaus Schwab's father went to Dwight Eisenhower, and he's the president that that had that speech that we must be aware of, fearful of the military-industrial complex and all this. I mean, it's a long speech, but that's what the people remember from that. So what they're saying is, or what he's saying is that the Klaus Schwab's father and the Nazi Party visited Eisenhower and told him, listen, this can go either one of two ways. Either we annihilate you completely or you just do what we say. So they chose obviously option 2. And he, in that speech, put little Easter eggs. You know, that's why he was warning about the military industrial complex and all that other stuff, because he was shown things that were beyond, you know, like his power to control or anything. And he was shown things that were quite frightening, to a point where he's like, listen, he couldn't really do anything. He couldn't say it outright, but he left Easter eggs. And when you start peeling back and start searching, you find that there's links to, you know, how this all comes to play. So let's see if he goes on and explains a little bit further.
With these aliens, that they could kidnap people and do experiments, but they couldn't just do it anywhere. They had specific places, which were our national forest. What? Yeah, dude. You've never heard of this.
This guy's like, I can't believe you've never heard of this. This is like the craziest thing ever.
Yeah, this is like, because he does a podcast called the Tinfoil Hat Podcast. So he's all knee deep into the conspiracies. I love his stuff.
You're making this sound as if this is like a story that is commonplace. Jamie, count me out here. Have you heard the story?
Brand new.
You've never heard of this? You've never heard of Operation High Jump, bro?
I feel like I've heard of that, but I haven't, not in this context.
This sounds amazing. Please.
Well, I've heard of High Jump way before he mentioned it. And the reason I've heard of it was because of Ancient Aliens, that program on History Channel. And they actually mentioned about Operation High Jump and the connection to Nazi and UFOs. And I actually have a clip from Ancient Aliens, but let's see if he goes into...
Let's keep going.
And so, this is where the missing 411 come from.
The missing information? What missing information?
No, the missing 411.
What do you mean by that?
Which is all these people have mysteriously disappeared in force. And they don't know
you're not
how.
talking about the missing 411 like information.
No.
So missing 411 is the number of people that have been abducted?
Yeah, and it's all really weird because they all have a lot of similar characteristics. German-born, like German background, highly intelligent. And I don't know how weird you want to get, bro.
I want to get weird.
Okay, bro. They think this might be some time-traveling Nazi shit, bro. I know you're going to think I'm crazy, but it's true, dude.
Time traveling Nazi shit.
That's what they believe, and they made a deal.
These they folks. Who? When you say they believe, who are these they?
The conspiracy people. No, there's a whole difference. There's a lot of warring clans, bro. There's a lot of warring clans, dude.
But
how deep do you want to go?
What is interesting is how advanced the engineering of the Germans was. You know, it's really interesting when you think about car manufacturers like Audi and Volkswagen.
All right, so I mean, he goes off on a tangent here, but I do have. I have something that goes and corroborates this, because from when he's saying it, it sounds like, oh, this is ridiculous, you know, conspiracy, and this is off-world time traveling Nazis. Oh, a crazy fucking story. But this is, obviously he didn't get this information on his own. But a lot of people believe this, especially like the ancient alien people. In fact, have you ever heard of World of Warships? World of Warships. It's like a game. It's one of these like online games. And even yeah, I've heard of Battleship too, but I've never heard of this game in particular. But even they created this battle with the UFOs in Antarctica, this whole Operation High Jump thing. But I have here this is from Ancient Aliens to give you an idea of what the Nazis were really into, which is why this doesn't sound far-fetched as much to me, because it seems like, I mean, all of Indiana Jones, the whole premise of the movie of the movies is all about Nazism. 1 second, just give me 1 second. Hello? All right, sorry about that. So basically, you know, all of Indiana Jones was all about, you know, Nazis trying to get after, you know, these crazy mystical things, the crystal skull and all these other things. Nazis were all throughout the movie. You know, that's who the main enemy was. So it's not crazy to think that, you know, Nazis are involved in some kind of thing. And one of the technologies that they were developing supposedly was this thing called the Bell, which kind of looks like a UFO. And the thing was like this antimatter kind of thing that they were doing. And this is kind of documented. But this is what Ancient Aliens has to say about it. It's pretty fascinating.
Hamburg, Germany, December 1938. 4 years into Adolf Hitler's reign as Führer, he is beginning to establish his total dictatorship by taking direct control of the German military. But on the brink of World War II, Hitler is also involved in much stranger endeavors that are hidden to the public. He is committing every remaining resource to searching for ancient relics that he believes could hold incredible powers. On December 17th, the German freighter MS Schwabenland sets out on one of these top-secret missions. Its 33-member team is rumored to include scientists, military experts, construction crews, and key members of the Thule Society, an elite group associated with the Nazis that focused on mysticism and the occult. 32 days later, they arrive at their destination, Antarctica.
The Nazis themselves were fascinated by ancient civilizations and legends of vanished super races. They were searching for this lost Arctic home that they thought that the Aryans had come from. They were looking all over the world, and that included Antarctica. The Thule Society actually believed that there were mystics or channels who were able to communicate with these beings who claimed to be either extraterrestrial in origin or claimed to belong to this civilization that lived in Earth's interior. They gave a lot of information about the building of advanced.
So that's something that he just revealed. So people living in Earth's interior. That's where the whole hollow Earth theory comes to play, and that's a very fascinating theory. We don't have time for it today, but it's if this whole UFO thing, if that comes to light, that's going to change our entire worldview, because now we're going to start to realize that, wait a minute, beneath our feet is a whole nother civilization that's more advanced than us, and we had no idea. That's incredible. I mean, that would change our.
We don't even know most of our oceans or something like that.
Right. So imagine finding out that, you know, Atlantis was real and it exists and within the Earth's core somehow.
It still exists.
Yeah, like how crazy, right?
Aerospace vehicles, flying saucers, and I think this is where Hitler's Nazi party got a lot of its information about Antarctica, that in Antarctica there is this ancient civilization or bases where they could find a lot of these advanced technologies.
During their time in Antarctica, the Nazis were believed to have mapped huge swaths of the icy landscape by air. Ancient astronaut theorists believe they also established an elaborate underground headquarters known as Base 211.
Hitler and the Nazis were particularly interested in Antarctica. I think they really believed that there were things going on deep under the ice. And there have always been rumors that the Nazis, with their submarines, have underwater caverns, small cities, that they escaped there after World War II.
When the Germans got to Antarctica, what they found were massive cities that were highly technological. And these buildings were not just on the surface, they went deep down underground. So they began relocating a massive amount of equipment and personnel to Antarctica, repressurizing these ancient facilities and reoccupying them.
In 1946, 1 year after the end of World War II, the U.S. government launched its own large-scale mission to Antarctica. Operation High Jump deployed 4,700 troops, 13 ships, an aircraft carrier, and a number of seaplanes to Antarctica. Although the government denied it at the time, it would later become known that one of the operation's primary objectives was, quote, extending the United States sovereignty over the largest practicable area of the Antarctic continent.
So that's a little clip to give you an idea of like the intro into Operation High Jump and all that stuff. I hope the audience realizes that I don't pull this stuff out of my ass. I really do a little bit of research and I find these things for you. And sometimes I remember to clip them. Sometimes I forget. But, you know, it's interesting because, you know, what this guy Sam Tripoli was saying is like, you know, this guy Klaus Schwab has some kind of connection to Antarctica and connection to this Nazi thing that's going on. And, you know, if that's the case, then this guy, Klaus Schwab, is the one that's really trying to change the world as we see it. He has his own predictions for the future. He's the one famous saying that you will own nothing and be happy. You know, that he's that guy. And, you know, he has a lot of people that are, you know, indoctrinated in this, you know, that were part of the global leaders. Dan Crenshaw is one of these guys. He's a congressman. I think even the Hawaiian, what's her name? The congresswoman. What's her name? Oh my goodness. You know who I'm talking about though? No. Jesus Christ. Tulsi Gabbard. She's another person that was I mean, she's a congresswoman. A lot of these people are in Congress. They were part of the young global leaders. I can quickly show you some of these people. Leaders, alumni. This is a list of the young global leaders. Let me see. See if they have pictures. Boo. No pictures. Hold on. Let's see if we okay. They have no names. Well, there was something I saw that had all the names, but a lot of the people like Justin Trudeau is a young global leader. All these people that are like kind of making differences in the world today, they're all kind of connected to this guy Klaus Schwab. So it begs the question of what's going on really, and if these people are, if these stories are correct, and what this guy really, Admiral Byrd really witnessed was this Aryan race that wants to try to, you know, control or somehow mitigate our our life, because clearly they say that we're not worthy of atomic weapons, that we're gonna blow ourselves up, and maybe it's for their right, and maybe they're trying to protect us, but maybe they're wrong and they're trying to control us. But in any case, if this is true, then we have something that no one's talking about, no one's really noticing, no one knows about. These are things that it's kind of odd that we don't know about these kinds of things. They don't bring it up in our history classes from any age. I mean, I'm not expecting for us to learn about this in 3rd grade, but in college and any time, like when does this kind of information get revealed to us? It doesn't. So a lot of people don't know about it. Mm-hmm. So it's a interesting thing. So what I was just trying to piece together, or what I was trying to highlight, is that there's this guy Klaus Schwab, and he's the leader of the World Economic Forum, and he's working on something. And if what these videos are saying is true, then he might be connected to Nazism. He might. And what are the things that people are saying? Like, what is Russia fighting? Nazism. What are these Trumpers are? These are racist Nazis, and all these Nazism is slowly bubbling back up into the surface. So I feel like maybe at some point you're gonna get revealed that that these UFOs, and because they're saying I can pull that up, but the government saying that these UFOs, they're not ours. We don't know who they belong to. So if we don't know who they belong to and they're not ours, the one person that, or group of people that no one knows it still exists, is the Nazi Party. And if they're in Antarctica, or the Aryans are in that Antarctica, do you think how would the public respond to that? I don't know. how would this whole thing?
Because they don't know. Respond to that. It's pretty sensitive information,
You're right, exactly. So I was gonna look up something, and I just totally lost my train of thought here. Oh yeah. Okay, so another thing, this just goes into what I was on another angle, Operation High Jump. Mm-hmm. Just so that people realize that I'm not, pulling this out of my ass.
At an altitude of.
Okay, so let's see here.
Jumping high.
Of war, Hitler dedicated considerable resources to searching for mysterious ancient artifacts said to have incredible power. One of these expeditions launched on December 17th, 1938. The SS Schwabenland was sent on a secret mission to Antarctica. On board were scientists and engineers.
So that's what, it's going over the stuff we already went over. Let's see what this guy's
by the U.S. government. Naturally. The other goal was to locate and destroy the secret Nazi military complex known as Base 211, and to capture any flying saucers they could. The Armada arrived on January 15th and immediately started building a base called Little America. But then the Operation High Jump story takes a turn. Originally meant to be a 6 to 8 month mission, after just 40 days, the base is evacuated and the task force withdraws. This massive, expensive, and important mission is suddenly terminated. So what happened? And this is where Admiral Byrd, a legend in his own time, becomes a legend for all time.
Oh.
The Navy task force retreated to Chile, and as soon as they made port, rumors spread about strange findings and disasters that forced the mission to be cut short. Admiral Byrd himself spoke to the media, and rather than deny the stories, he expressed deep concern about the real possibilities of devastating aerial attacks on the U.S.
This doesn't sound like a guy on a scientific mission.
It sure doesn't. Byrd warned that it was imperative for the United States to take immediate defensive measures against hostile forces in the Arctic and Antarctic. The admiral went on to say that he wasn't trying to alarm anyone.
Too late.
But the cruel reality is that in case of a new war, the United States could be attacked by flying objects that had the ability to move from pole to pole at incredible speeds. Admiral Byrd reiterated this in a few different statements. He warned that there was a new enemy that could attack any country at any time, anywhere, no matter the distance. When Admiral Byrd got back to Washington, he was immediately debriefed. And though he had just spent 2 weeks making statements in the press, after a lengthy interrogation, Admiral Byrd never uttered another word about Operation High Jump. The mission was immediately classified top secret, and any sailor who spoke about the mission would be arrested and imprisoned. The Navy then published a brief summary of the mission's achievements and admitted some sailors were killed, but they didn't say how many. And officially, all the deaths were accidents, and the bodies were buried there, not brought home. During one of his flights, Admiral Byrd was missing for 3 hours in an episode of lost time, but that was officially blamed on radio failure. The official reason for terminating the mission early was poor weather conditions, and that was that. However, you know how Admiral Byrd was missing for 3 hours and experienced lost time?
Yeah.
Well, Byrd was meticulous at documenting everything, but when he returned to the States, his journals were confiscated and classified. But the government didn't get everything. He had a secret diary that he gave to his son right before he died. And if any of what he claims to have seen is true, well, it changes everything. According to Admiral Byrd's diary, he fuels up for a flight early in the morning. The weather is clear, and mechanically, the plane checks out. At 8:15, at an altitude of 2,300 feet, he checks in.
0815 hours. Radio check with base camp. Situation normal.
At 10 after 9, he notices a color pattern in the snow. Nothing extreme, but he circles the area to get a closer look. He makes visual contact with camp and radios in his findings. Then his instruments start to act strange. He writes that both his compasses are gyrating so much that he can't even use them. So he uses the sun to navigate and maintains a visual of camp. He reports that his controls are feeling sluggish. He's concerned about the wings icing up. There's a little ice, but no indication of a problem, so he continues flying toward what he perceives as a mountain range.
0949 hours. 29 minutes elapsed flight time from the first sighting of the mountains. It is no illusion. They are mountains and consisting of a small range that I have never seen before.
He crosses the mountain range and descends toward what he describes as a green valley with a small river running through it.
There should be no green valley below. Something is definitely wrong and abnormal here. We should be over ice and snow. To the port side are great forests growing on the mountain slopes. Our navigation instruments are still spinning. The gyroscope is oscillating back and forth.
He drops down a bit and circles back for a closer look. He reports the green as being moss or tight grass. The light seems different here. He can see the ground easily, but he can no longer see the sun. Now, this starts to worry him because he's using the sun to navigate, but he gets distracted by something he didn't expect. On the green valley below, a large animal is grazing.
It appears to be an elephant. No, it looks more like a mammoth. This is incredible, yet there it is. Decrease altitude to 1,000 feet and take binoculars to better examine the animal. It is confirmed. It is definitely a mammoth-like animal. Report this to base camp.
Admiral Byrd flies over green pastures that stretch for miles, and he's so amazed by what he's seeing, it takes him almost 30 minutes to realize it's not cold anymore. Frost on his forward window is gone. Same with the bits of ice that were on the wings. He removes his gloves. The window of the canopy is warm to the touch. He records an external air temperature of 74 degrees Fahrenheit. His instruments are now back online, but his radio is out. And remember, in the official report, Admiral Byrd was out of radio contact for 3 hours. So he flies for another hour over what looks to be a countryside or a pasture. On the horizon, he sees the impossible, a large, shining city. The plane shudders. Admiral Byrd grabs the controls, but they're not responding. He notices the plane feels light and buoyant. Then, on both sides of the plane, strange aircraft are rapidly closing in. They're disc-shaped and seem to be radiating light, and somehow they're running completely silent. Now, thinking this is now a really good time to head back, Admiral Byrd tries the controls again. No luck. The plane's engine suddenly cuts out, but somehow continues flying, controlled by some unseen force. The craft are right up alongside his plane now, close enough that Admiral Byrd can see markings. In that instant, his wonder turns to terror. The markings are swastikas.
Interesting.
According to documents leaked in 1991, things back at Camp Little America take a strange turn. Just 2 days after arriving, bright lights were seen on the horizon. The sailors thought it was another ship, but they were below the Antarctic Circle in uncharted waters. The lights then ascended at a 45-degree angle into the sky very quickly. They tried to make radar contact, but were out of range. 3 hours later, 5 more lights appeared in the sky and began flying directly toward the ships. Anti-aircraft guns and 20-millimeter cannons were fired, but had no effect. A radio operator stationed on the USS Brownson gave testimony of how strange craft suddenly appeared from the ocean. And this is corroborated by Lieutenant John Sayerson, who said objects shot vertically out of the water at tremendous speeds. One object flew
Which the UFOs now that are being recorded are transmedium UFOs, which means that they are able to go underwater, in air, and in space. So they can go throughout everything without getting affected.
between the masts of his ship with such force that the radio antenna oscillated back and forth from the turbulence. An aircraft from the USS Currituck took to the sky but was immediately struck by a beam of energy and destroyed. About 10 miles away, the torpedo boat USS Maddox burst into flames and began to sink. According to the report, this was the first attack of several that would occur over the next few weeks. February 26 would be the last engagement with the unknown craft. The Navy task force ordered retreat and left the area, a full 6 months before their mission was supposed to end. Although Lieutenant Sayerson couldn't identify the lights, he wondered if they were what he called German wonder weapons, being operated by survivors of the recently defeated Third Reich, operating out of a secret base under Antarctica. His testimony has fueled speculation that still exists, and to this day, investigators are trying to determine what really happened during Operation High Jump.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's a really interesting story. That's why I'm bringing it up.
Admiral Byrd's radio, which had been working for at least an hour, suddenly comes back to life. Though the signal was distorted, a voice starts speaking English with a slightly German accent.
Welcome, Admiral, to our domain. We shall land you in exactly 7 minutes. Relax, Admiral, you are in good hands.
The plane gently lands itself, and Admiral Byrd is met by several men, all tall with blonde hair.
Aryans?
Sounds like it. Byrd joins the strangers on a platform that levitates and rushes them toward the city at great speed. He's directed to an elevator that takes him quickly and silently deep underground. He is to have an audience with the master. Admiral Byrd is led into another room where an older man is seated at a long table. Admiral Byrd is asked to sit down. The master says his people are called the Ariani, and they've been observing humans for a long time, but only now are they choosing to interfere. The master says that Admiral Byrd's race is too immature for atomic energy and are at risk of destroying themselves. The master says every time they try to make contact, their ships are fired upon and pursued by fighter planes. So instead, they chose Admiral Byrd to carry this message. Because he's a famous and well-respected figure, the master hopes that the world will believe him. After the meeting, the admiral is escorted back to his plane. And after flying for a few minutes, a voice comes through the radio that control of the aircraft is now his. A voice says, "Auf Wiedersehen," and disconnects.
Definitely Aryans.
When Admiral Byrd arrived...
So, yeah, this that was just a brief synopsis. It's a 24-minute video, so I'm not going to play the whole thing. If you guys want to see it, it's the Y Files, and it's the video title is "Hunting the Secret Nazi UFO Base in Antarctica, Operation High Jump." But yeah, it's a very interesting thing that happened. I don't know how true it is. I mean, it's impossible. I was never there to know how true it is. But if it is true, that there's a lot of things that could be happening. And I'll leave you with this, and then we'll get into our final segment, the funny segment. This is where we just a little bit of comedic relief with this whole conspiracy and news and everything else. It could be a little bit hellish on the nerves. So we like to end it off with a little bit of funnies so that we can laugh off.
What
What happened?
You're gonna put your mama's house on?
Well, yeah, I'm gonna pull your mama's house, but I'm not gonna put on your mama's house. I'm gonna put some funny stuff on there. So let me see here. So last thing I would like to leave you with is this.
All right, you heard the name Mr. Corbell there. You were name dropped. There he is. Let's bring in UFO documentary filmmaker Jeremy Corbell. This is your specialty. You've been working on this for years now. Thank you for being with us today on such a big day. This is for you. And can we say the UFO community?
Absolutely, the UFO community, yeah.
Okay, so what is the biggest revelation you think from today's hearings?
First of all, UFOs are not a matter of belief. That's a data poor perspective, and this is a data rich environment. So if you look at it this way, every day human knowledge expands, and that's what we're seeing today. Today was this landmark moment. It was a moment a lot of people were asking for, and representative government came forward and offered this. It's the first time in 50 years that we've had open congressional hearings on the subject of UFOs. And not only that, today, there was a pressure that was put on our intelligence agencies and our Department of Defense to fess up about what they know. And what they know is that UFOs are real, that they're physical objects, that they are advanced craft, that they outpace, outmaneuver, and outperform any of our war technology. So they showed new footage today, actually. They showed new footage. So that is a symbol or a sign of UFO transparency. We're living in a different world. We're now living in a world, your children are going to grow up, and the UFO mystery, the scientific community is going to look at this. Today showed that the American people want the truth and that our representative government is fighting for us. They're going to bat.
So there was both open testimony and then there was behind the scenes classified testimony.
So the U.S. government says that UFOs are 100% real. How about them apples? It's pretty crazy, huh? So you have now been freed. You're a freed mind. You're no longer living in the matrix. I've educated you on some of the crazy stuff that we here on the Pyramid Podcast, we research and find on a daily basis. Now here's some funny stuff that to get us into the rest of the week looking positive.
What is this? Nice. Why would someone want to do this? Yeah.
Supposedly a transformer. Nice going, buddy. Let me see. I got another one here. Let's see.
We've been happily married for 27 years, and I've learned a few expert marriage tips. So when your wife is working hard and she's a little stressed out, gifts. Go to the store and buy yourself a gift, because when she's stressed out, everybody's stressed out, and you've earned it with all the extra stress she's bringing to the table, with the work she's doing to keep the house clean, the grass cut, and whatnot. That's stressful to be in the same household with. So don't be afraid to treat yourself to some great gifts. You deserve it, King.
Oh man. So if you're married out there, just get yourself gifts if your wife is mad. Let's see. I have endless amounts of these. Let's see. And also we have some like curious things here too. So strange but true kind of stuff here. Let's see, what else do I got here? Something funny. What's this?
Hear it.
That's fire. Looks like because both myself and Ernesto, we post up on this, so it looks like one of his things here. Let's see what else. Come on, give me something funny. Let's see. What's this? I guess he just starts off the race and whoop. All those years of training.
Just for that.
What a great start. I love the stupid the recorder. Oh, the recorder's too much though. That's hilarious. Let's see. Let's go for one or two more. Let's see what else we got here. Damn, this is like, oh, I think you might remember this one. You may or may not remember this. Let's see. What? Oh, yeah, now you don't want to play. All right, hold on. Oh, shit, yeah. Did you know that Balenciaga is selling destroyed sneakers for $1,850?
I wouldn't doubt it, bro.
Oh, look at this. Look at these shoes.
Man, yo,
Balenciaga is wild.
You know what? If someone will buy it and they will make it part of their outfit, and
for sure,
people will actually respect it.
Then they'll be like
making a good outfit with destroyed fucking sneakers.
Yo, you like my shoes? Yeah, Balenciaga, dude. Yeah. But look, yo, that's fire. Yo, $1,800.
I wonder if it goes up in value, if it gets more destroyed, or if it stays like in the same destroyed look when you get it.
I don't know, but that's wild.
Sounds like a collector's item type of thing,
Oh, but I think we got tricked here. This is here. Hold on. It says, first thing, no, the image you see at the top of the page is not what Balenciaga's new Paris sneaker actually looks like. Damn, we got tricked. We got tricked. Or rather, it's an exaggerated version of the distressed shoe that forms part of the sneaker's new campaign. Oh, this is what it looks like. All right, that's a little bit better. That's better.
Yeah, but it's destroyed with style. It's not just
yeah, yeah, exactly. Hope that clears some of the outrage against the campaign. Though to be fair, $1,850 is still a staggering number for the mildly distressed styles, even if they are Balenciaga. Oh well, these are not that destroyed.
No, I don't think those are supposed to be the destroyed ones.
Oh, but like,
they kind of, yeah.
Kind of. Huh.
Like
but that look, yeah.
Like, before people used to like, oh, you have a hole in your pants. Now people put it as a style.
You know?
Yeah, I mean that's the style to just distress your pants
and sometimes you see like people have big fucking holes in them. You know?
Oh yeah,
it's like you don't even have any jeans. It's basically just fucking
exactly. Especially the like some of what the women wear is like. How do you put your leg through that? There's like mostly holes. It's like there's nothing really. There's no material like on your leg, basically. Especially like in the winter, and you see them like, what are you wearing? You're not wearing anything. There's no protection whatsoever. Oh, I think you'll like this one. We've played this one before, but I think you'll like this. This is pretty funny.
Madam Speaker, the President of the United States. Go get him! And we will! Go get him!
Putin's wrong. We are ready.
Go get him! And we will! Go get him!
We'll win over darkness. Putin may circle key with tanks, but he'll never gain the hearts and souls of the Iranian people.
Folks, go get him! And we will! Go get him! We'll be stronger a year from now!
People have a lot of time in their hands, man.
Yeah, no.
The world will roll over. That's why the NATO alliance was created, to secure peace and stability. We prepared extensively and carefully. We are united and we stayed united. Putin is now isolated from the world more than he's ever been. We're cutting off Russia's largest bank, preventing Russia's central bank from defending the Russian ruble. Tonight, I say to the Russian oligarchs and the corrupt leaders who built billions of dollars off this violent regime, no more.
Go get him! And we will!
Go get him!
Putin's wrong. We are ready.
Go get him! And we will! Go get him!
We'll win over darkness. Putin may circle key with tanks, but he'll never gain the hearts and souls of the Iranian people.
Folks, go get him!
Yeah.
And we will! Go get him! And we'll be stronger a year from now!
On this night, on our 245th year as a nation, I've come to report on the state of the nation, the state of the union. And my report is this: the state of the union is strong because you, the American people, are strong. France, Germany, Italy, United Kingdom, Canada, Japan, Korea, Australia, New Zealand, even Switzerland. The United States and our allies will defend every inch of territory that is NATO territory with the full force of our collective power.
This is our moment to meet and overcome the challenges of our time. And we will! Go get him! And we will!
Go get him!
Putin's wrong. We are ready.
Woo!
And we will!
Putin may circle key with tanks, but he'll never.
This is good. Oh, that's good. Oh man. Let me see if I have one more. Let's see. Anything else? Anything good? Let's see. Oh, okay. I think you might like this one. Let's put this one up.
Está bueno que te pase. Sigue ahí, coño, corriendo. Tú no oyes. Tú nunca oyes.
This is Latin mom's most savage moments.
Los río ustedes y lo sacan los ojos. No, son cuervos los dos. Ping pong. Tú sí eres estúpido. Qué pendejo. Come mierda. Cara de culo.
Hola, mami, bendición.
Mija, pero tú sí estás gorda.
Hola, mami.
Mija, pero tú sí estás flaca. Ponte a comer.
¡Gabriel!
Señora. Apágame la luz, por favor. Gracias, mija.
Mami, me duele.
¿Qué te duele, coñazo? El que quiere moños bonitos aguanta jalones. Quédate quieta con esta greña que tú tienes.
Que pase el control.
Está bien, pon lo que tú quieras.
Gracias. ¿Qué fue? Adivinen con quién acabo de hablar yo. Adivinen. Con su tía. ¿Y tú sabes lo que me dijo? Que Yesenia la aceptaron en la universidad. Y ustedes dos, par de mojones, ¿qué están haciendo? Calculen algo entre los dos, que yo estoy loca para salir de ustedes. Calculen, coño. Y son las 10 ya. Esas son horas para dormir de uno. ¿A qué hora usted se levanta? Que yo me levanto temprano. Estoy bostezando yo. Tú no tienes nada que hacer mañana. Coño. ¿Y cuándo es que tú te vas? Vecina, déjame yo caminarte para la puerta. A ver. Mira la cosita que tiene este muchachito. ¿Tú ves?
Ay, pero mami.
Es para que te dé vergüenza, ¿eh? ¿Tú estás viendo esto? Te dejo. Ven a ver a tu tío. Mira, un viejo privando en joven. No, Jesús Santísimo. Tú sabes que tu papá es bien bruto, mijo. Es un animal con ropa. ¿Quién me cambió la novela?
Pero tú no estás viendo.
La estoy escuchando. Ponme la maldita novela para atrás. Y cámbiame esa cara, muchacho, la mierda. I'm doing more of this. Actually, like...
I love it. Dominican heritage. We are savage to our kids, aren't we? Well, that concludes today's podcast. We really appreciate our special guest, Mr. Andy. If you are listening to this podcast, that means you are part of the Podcasting 2.0. And as part of Podcasting 2.0, we have, like I've mentioned, the value for value. That means you could give us, donate any amount of value that you see that this podcast brings to you. If this podcast has brought any value to you, whether it be a lot or a little, we don't care. Whatever it is, you reciprocate in dollars, and we appreciate that. So you can go to thepyramidshop.com, and from there you can donate any amount that you want, whatever value that you feel that this podcast is worth. We appreciate you. And for those that are listening and are not donating, we call you a Welepu or a Bobolongo, whichever one you would rather be called. They're both bad. And if you would like to donate, again, that's thepyramidshop.com. We appreciate everybody. This is a value for value podcast. That means that we are free from any sponsor strings. We are completely 100% supported by you. So try to help us keep the lights on. If you like what we're doing here, help us keep the lights on so we can keep putting out more valuable content to you and get some more valuable guests with interesting perspectives like Andy over here. If you have any thing that you would like to add to us, or you would like to communicate to us in any way, you can always comment under our YouTube videos, or you can go to thepyramidshop.com. You can select contact us, and you can just put in your information and put whatever it is that you feel that you need to tell us. If there's any news articles you want us to cover or anything that you want us to be aware of, just go to thepyramidshop.com. We appreciate you very much. And Andy, you have any comments before we go?
No, just I had a great time, and it's been an honor to be on the show, man. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor for us to have you, and it's been fun. I really appreciate you, and we definitely desperately need somebody to fill in when Ernesto is not around. So it's nice to have you, and we hope we can do this again sometime.
Yeah, for sure. Just let me know.
All right, we'll do. Well, for everyone, that's Pablo Morado and Andy signing off.
See you.
Peace.